So I'm not sure, that's why I think like if it were the right person reaching out to them, they may like, well, it's not good. Yeah. But it's like, I would just make sure it's not one that's
Just so you guys know, the camera's live now. Thank you. Unacceptable.
It was a great day out today. I need the sun to come out here. I got to say, because like at 7 this morning, I was like, man, it's a little brighter out there. And then all of a sudden, it's gray and rainy. But a buddy of mine looks up in Appleton, and we had like 6 inches of snow. Yeah. What's there, like, are they open from like May to September? Well, it looks like that. Things are kind of like spread doors in the fall season, but not ready for that. They've got you in the hall. Pardon? They've got you in the hall.
Yeah, that's a good spot. That works. We're a little out of practice.
San Fran and San Fran, Seattle. Rockbury, man, we all would like for that.
He's only got 1 minute. Thanks.
All right, before we get started, I'm going to make a couple of several announcements. Bathrooms are located in the foyer through the double doors. The emergency exit is the room with the door behind you or through the foyer. If you haven't already, please sign the white attendance sheet on the podium in the back of the meeting room. The meeting is available via live stream, camera, via the Diligent Community Platform. Please note that the chat feature is not monitored. Public comment is accepted in person. A link to the video will be posted to the Diligent Community website next week. And this is a business meeting. The board asks for your cooperation to maintain decorum. Please be considerate and refrain from interrupting board members and other speakers. Thank you. All right, I'd like to call to order the December 15th, 2022 regular board meeting at 6 p.m.
Commissioner Archambault.
Here.
Commissioner Wesson.
Here.
Commissioner Rapp.
Here.
Commissioner Root.
Present.
Commissioner Seaman. Here. Commissioner Kodo.
Here.
Commissioner James.
Here. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, President James, there's 2 changes to the agenda. We'd like to be able to introduce our new Human Resources Manager, Beth Costert, before we get to the financials. And then also move the Kemper Sports presentation to just after the remarks from visitors and before the approval of minutes, recognizing we have a number of staff members here.
Very good. Does anybody object to that? Okay.
The Winnetka Park District is honored to have a new Human Resources Manager, Elizabeth Costert. I'd love to introduce her, but rather than steal her thunder, if you'd like to stand up and say hi to the board and tell us a little bit about you, that'd be great.
Hello, I go by Beth, but yes, my full name is Elizabeth. I have over 20 years of human resources experience. Prior to coming to the Park District, I was the Human Resources Manager at the Skokie Public Library for almost 15 years. Prior to that, I spent 8 years at Hewitt Associates in a few different HR functions, and I'm excited to join the Park District team. I look forward to working with the team and using my skills and experience to complement Brittany Purnell's work here and to move the Park District forward. And I look forward to getting to know each of you in the new year.
All right, thanks, Beth.
Thank you. Welcome aboard. Feel free to leave when you need to leave. We're not compelling you to stay, okay? And we won't be offended.
But it's fascinating.
Thank you. Okay.
It's up to you.
Yeah.
She is another-
Make your exit.
Thanks, Beth.
May I have a motion to approve the November 2022 financials? So moved. Is there a second? Jim?
Thank you, Commissioner James. The Park District remains in good financial standing. This is due to the fact that our operating expenses are lower than what was budgeted. Our operating capitals are significantly lower than what was budgeted. Many of those have been deferred to next year because of the Cook County tax disbursement delay. And we are awaiting that disbursement in the first quarter of next year. Any comments or questions?
David?
No.
None? No? Good.
What's your best estimate on timing for receipt of Cook County tax receipts?
Yes.
Unfortunately, we can't get Park District Committee to pay for a party.
All right. If there's no further discussion, roll call please.
Commissioner Archambault?
Yes.
Commissioner Lesson?
Yes.
Commissioner Rath?
Yes.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Seaman?
Yes.
Commissioner Kodo?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Vouchers, may I have a motion to approve the vouchers for $1,207,219.17 as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion, back to you, Jim.
The vouchers are a little higher this time around than last time, simply because we had a number of bond debt service payments that were due in December with the contracts, so that bumped them up a little higher than previous months. Otherwise, it's part of course. No pun intended.
David?
I have no comment, that's great, that's great.
Vouchers are in order. Anybody else have any comments on the vouchers? Hearing none, roll call please.
Commissioner Lesson?
Yes.
Commissioner Rath?
Yes.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Seaman?
Yes.
Commissioner Kodo?
Yes.
Commissioner Archambault?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Remarks from visitors. Remarks from visitors is your opportunity to address the board on any issue. When called upon, please come to the center position in front of the commissioners, state your name for the record, and speak directly to the board. Keep all comments under 3 minutes. This is not a question and answer forum, so please do not expect a response or answer from the park board this evening. If you prefer to share your comments in writing, you may use the comments card, which are available near the sign-in sheets, and any park district staff will accept your card to be shared with the board. Would anybody like to make public comment at this time?
I figured I'd sit down. Sorry.
Great job.
Mary Garrison. I just want to again thank you for having the packet at the library. I read it today, and it is big, I must say, but very informational. I was curious about sailing, as far as if we've had any luck with any other programs and so on, so we can check that information out. What was my last thing? I had some, at the workshop, the 5th station, where they talk about if the swap goes through, this is what the plans are. Will we also be able to discuss if the swap does not go through, as to what the plans will be for the beach?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak at this time? Wow, okay. Well, we'll have another
Like you
chance
did.
later in the meeting.
Can I make one, can I go backwards?
I don't know.
That's what it is.
I want to make people aware that Jim and John and I sat down last Thursday just to go through some refinements of the budget documents. We're gonna meet again next Tuesday with some further refinements, so I think when we're done with that, that's when we can, I guess probably in January,
Yes.
right, I'll say, completed budget documents will be presented, or in the packet. So, I know Jim's done a lot of work, John's done a lot of work, so it was a very productive meeting, so, just so everybody's aware.
When you say refinements, tweaks, not anything that's a surprise.
No.
If I could add to Commissioner Seaman's comments, once we go through that process with Commissioner Seaman, we'll call each commissioner, walk through the budget as it's set, once it's finalized with Commissioner Seaman. Make sure each commissioner has a chance to talk with us one-on-one, so that when we get to the January 12th meeting, we're in a pretty good position, and then we're really in a great position for the January 26th meeting for budget approval.
Good. Thank you. We're going to move on to approval of minutes. Oh, excuse me, it's right here, right in front of me. We're going to move on to Kemper. The floor is yours.
All right.
Thank you.
Quick introduction while the presentation gets loaded up. I'm Vince Suarez. I'm Vice President of Operations for Kemper Sports. I have been with Kemper Sports for the last 12 years. My responsibilities include supporting the Chicagoland region. I go from exit 1 in Lake Geneva in Wisconsin, all the way down through Chicago to Indiana and up to Michigan. So we're thrilled to be part of the Winnetka community. I brought some colleagues along today. I'll introduce them as we go along. We are going to give you a brief operational update of the facility. We're going to kind of walk through on a high level the marketing update and then give a high level construction update. Along with myself, I brought Mary Kate Walsh, who's our Regional Sales and Marketing Director. Mary Kate's been with the company for 7 years. We work hand in hand on a lot of properties in the Chicagoland region together. I'm going to embarrass her for just a second. She's probably the best golfer in the room. She's a Hall of Fame member at North Central College, and she's a phenomenal player and a great addition to our team for the last 7 years. And she'll be working with Matt and the rest of the Winnetka Golf Club team on the sales and marketing strategies. I also brought Dave Groley. Dave's been with Kemper Sports for 20 plus years. Dave is our regional agronomist, Midwest regional agronomist. He is the superintendent at Royal Melbourne Golf Club over in Long Grove. He's also the superintendent at Vernon Hills Golf Course in Vernon Hills. Dave was responsible for the construction and the renovation at the Glen Club, along with numerous other construction projects that we've done in the company. So Dave will be taking the lead on working with Wadsworth, DeMayo, Michael, the rest of the agronomy team on the construction project at the golf course.
Not the best golfer in the room.
So I want to talk a little bit about the staff. You know, we came in a couple weeks back and we spent a lot of time working with the staff, talking with the staff, and really getting to know the team at Winnetka. We spent the last several weeks working towards our onboarding of the staff, and I'm happy to say that a majority of our clubhouse and our golf staff will be returning to the golf course. Even happier to be able to say that they're going to be led by Matt Johnson, who will be the general manager at the golf club. We're thrilled to have Matt as part of our team. He's been a long-standing golf professional in the Illinois section, and he's certainly given his heart and soul to Winnetka, and we're thrilled to have Matt join the Kemper Sports team. In addition, we have a majority of the ground staff that will be returning and working with us as well. And we're thrilled to have the ground staff. Obviously, we've got a big construction project ahead, and we're just thrilled to have all of them. And even happy, and just as happy to announce that Michael Slezak, who's with us today, will be retained as the superintendent at the golf course. We are working through the budget. We have a budget meeting coming up next week on Monday with Costa and Kyle to walk through the budget. We will be recommending some additional positions on the ground side, including a director of agronomy position. We have officially onboarded the staff at Winnetka. We held our onboarding with the staff on December 12th, gearing up towards the transition on 1/1. So it's a flip of a switch and boom, everybody's transitioned. As part of that onboarding process, we're in the process of introducing the team to some of our proprietary products, like our Kemper Sports Intranet, which is really the education portal that we use for Kemper Sports, and all of our employees have access to it. Our UKG portal, which is our payroll system, we're introducing everybody to our payroll system. And I think most importantly, we'll be starting our True Service training, which is our proprietary training program, which really talks about the 5 pillars that we believe in that really create happy, loyal customers. Because happy, loyal customers are customers that will come back. So we've started all of that. Additionally, along with the onboarding, the introduction of the key staff, the hiring of everybody, we got to work right away, recognizing that the golf course is going to be closed for an extended period of time. It was important for all of us to really sit back and talk about the residents and the permanent tee time holders and the people that play the golf course on a regular basis, and try to identify how we can help all of those players in 2023 and early 2024. I'm happy to say that I've met with the Men's League. Matt and I both talked with the Men's League. I've talked with the Ladies Leagues that are at the Ladies League at Winnetka, and we are in the process of identifying locations for them to play, or a select group of locations for them to play, and to have access to some golf on a permanent tee time level on Saturdays and Sundays. There's quite a few players, so it may not accommodate everybody, but I did talk to the men's league and kind of laid out some options that they had, and we'll be talking with them in early January to really firm up what those look like. In addition, we've talked to the leagues and are certainly going to open up to anybody that plays at Winnetka some traveling opportunities within Chicagoland. Knowing that the golf course is going to be closed, we again want to be able to provide the players with some place to play. So some traveling opportunities to various golf courses in Chicagoland that might be a little further than a Saturday, Sunday morning opportunity. And then introducing the golfers to some traveling opportunities out of town. And Matt will lead that charge at booking some traveling opportunities, whether it be northern Wisconsin, southern Missouri, Florida, wherever. Matt will lead that charge. We've already sat down and talked about some opportunities. Lessons and clinics. You know, Matt and the team and the community have really done a phenomenal job with lessons and clinics at the driving range. Those will continue. We certainly started to talk about what that looks like as we head into 2023. And also providing some different opportunities. Recognizing that we need to embrace the community and really get the permanent tee time holders and the leagues over to the golf course while it's closed. We plan on offering some specialty wedge nights, some specialty fitting nights, some evenings on the range to bring the community back over to the golf club. And then we'll be making our recommendations on food and beverage in the first quarter. I'm going to turn it over to Mary Kate, who is going to give a brief update on website development and some additional engagement.
Excellent, thank you, Vince. So really excited to be working on the account and to jump right in. I love working on websites and all things sales and marketing, so this is great. So to start with the website, a lot of great work has already been done on the site, so we're excited to be on the team to jump right in and to enhance the user experience and grow traffic. So we're already in the process of updating the website on the back end, working collaboratively with the Park District and the marketing team there to meet the needs and to use it as our main source for renovation updates. So part of that process is we're doing a site audit. We're looking at how can we consolidate some pages, as well as incorporating a pop-up message. So any user that comes onto the website, they will be directed mainly to the renovation page, but it's also a source of information for programming and lessons and all the great things that are happening at the property. We'll have a dedicated landing page for renovation updates that will include updates throughout the entire progress of the project. And then finally, we'll track activity regularly on the site through Google Analytics and other measures to make sure we're growing traffic and meeting our goals there. Community outreach, so I've listed here, 4 of our other main communication pillars that will support our website efforts as well, but each of these different pillars is meant to engage our customers and the community, not only in the renovation project, but in all the great things that are happening on property with the lessons and clinics and events that we have planned and things like that. So first is email, so we plan to do a monthly renovation newsletter to the email database, as well as other ad hoc e-blasts to notify the community and everyone in our database of all the great happenings and events on property. Social media, we've already started these efforts and in conjunction with the Park Districts as well as our Kemper Sports Communications team, getting the press release out, getting our partnership announcement out. But social media is really, we have 3 pillars of social media. We say it's to educate, entertain, and engage our audience. So we'll have flyovers of the project, we'll do some trivia, some really fun things to engage people in the project. Advertising and on-site promotion, so as part of our marketing plan and budget, we'll be doing some paid advertising to promote the project in the local community as well as regionally. And then on-site promotion, just having flyers as well as visual representations of the project. So we're engaging people who not only are looking at the facility on-site, but also people in our target markets outside of that. And one more. And then public relations and media outreach. So again, working directly with the Park District. Hopefully many of you saw we issued the first press release of our partnership today, which is very exciting. We'll continue to have other press releases and local media outreach, some progress updates, as well as an interview style video in the future with Rick Jacobson. So we're very excited about reaching the community through all of these different pillars.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Good evening, thanks for having us. Dave Growley, Midwest Regional Agronomist, here to update you on some of the construction. I've been doing my best over the last 6 weeks about learning the site, learning the golf course, all the contractors involved. There's a lot of moving pieces, but folks has been very helpful in answering a lot of my questions and working with Michael as well. So as of, I guess this was a few days ago when we kind of put this together, but construction update, I took this picture. This is actually them excavating the pond on 17. But DeMayo has made a lot of progress. The weather's been quite decent for this time of year, with no snow and decent temperatures. Any day is a good day on the site. So when obviously we had all the rain last night, so things slowed down a bit today, which you'll see less work on days like today after a lot of rain when they can't do a whole lot. But they have made great progress. The par 3 course is mostly completed with only some storm drains and box culverts remaining. Just some small items, but for the most part, they're still hauling through there, so they'll finish there at the end. But most of the work on the par 3 is completed. Currently working on the 18 hole. They've created a haul road down number 18. If you happen to walk up to the clubhouse, you'll look down 18. You'll see what looks like a road down the fairway, which can be a little interesting to see when you're, especially for somebody like me who's protective of the golf course. In all cases, to see this going on is a little hard at first. But so yeah, they're working out on 17. Like as I said, excavating the pond on 17. They're taking those spoils and flipping them over to, I believe that's 8 fairway right now, just to store it there, try and dry it out. But we were told today, the construction meeting today, actually, they're going to begin placing fill on fairways 3, 12, and 13 on Monday. The weather looks really good next week. It's going to get colder, which will actually be a better scenario. They'll be able to move around a lot easier and create less of a mess as things freeze. So that is the update from DeMayo. The other contractors on site that are subcontractors for DeMayo are Wadsworth, being the main golf course construction contractor. They are on site most days. They work hand in hand with DeMayo, so they go in front of DeMayo in certain situations, and then they follow in behind them afterwards. So they work hand in hand together. But basically what they do right now is DeMayo is letting them know, like for example, number 3 fairway, if they're going to be placing fill on that fairway next week, Wadsworth comes in and tills that fairway first, prepping it to receive the fill. That way they don't just throw soil on top of dormant grass and it may move or slide away. So they want to create something for that soil to bind to. So they go out and till the fairways prior to the fill being placed. They're also out here, like this is kind of an example of this picture, all these green flags are actually drain basins. So part of the scope of work is for Wadsworth to go out there and locate all these basins, and they will be raised or capped as the drainage plan specs desired. So some of them are capped and decommissioned, some of them are raised to whatever the fill area is on that fairway calls for. As well as the drainage, there's irrigation out on the fairways that need to be either, well, they're all marked, and some of them will be raised by utilizing existing piping. They can be raised or lowered. It's a small amount, and so they don't need to dig it up. But if it's a large increase of height for the sprinkler that the existing pipe doesn't allow, they'll remove it. And that's being done by Halloran and Yauch. It's another irrigation contractor. So they're out there removing heads that need to be removed, marking all the other ones, moving along very well. Homer Tree Service has been on site. They have most of the tree work complete. There's still a few things left to do. They've ground stumps with the largest stump grinding I've ever seen in my life. And they still have, they actually, one of the main things they have left to do is pick up all the main big logs on site, which they're waiting for ground to get frozen, to bring in bigger trucks to come in and take those logs off site. But they've made great progress, most of their work is done. We'll be starting some in-house tree work with our staff here shortly. There's a lot of areas on the course that were determined that are areas where we could find some value engineering and do some of this work in-house. So we're doing some tree trimming, some removals of some undergrowth, and just some ways that we could also keep our staff employed during the shutdown and keep them with us instead of seeking employment elsewhere while this is going on. But so far, so good. Everything's moving along very well.
Questions?
Can I just make one comment?
Or comments?
I would just say, when in doubt, communicate.
Okay.
This is a super important project, very expensive to the village as well as to the park district.
Okay.
When in doubt, communicate. Obviously, Executive Director Peterson is that person. If you see something you don't like,
Okay.
you don't think it's to the benefit of the park district, you gotta speak up and speak out.
You bet. Okay.
That would
Will
be
do.
my suggestion. Thank you.
Very well.
Questions?
Just a quick comment, Vince, a great update by Kemper. Matt, Michael, I'm thrilled you're part of the team.
Thank you.
Really.
Thank you, everybody.
I would, wait.
Go ahead.
Yep, no,
I want to compliment, certainly going back to our budget process, and Michael and Matt were front and center in the face of some questions, if you will. And to see them continue forward with Kemper Sports, to see Luis Godinez is part of it, and, Coast has also been very active in trying to take some of the colleagues that aren't going to Kemper Sports and have them come up and work with the Parks and Maintenance team, and I think that's been a great move because we maintain the institutional knowledge. And a colleague with whom we've worked for quite a bit of time, so there's some incredible work trust, if you will. And the Kemper Sports team has been unbelievable. We really executed this November 7th. And to think where we're at on December 15th with all the onboarding that's required is fantastic. So thank you, Vince, and to the entire team. 3 here, but there are a bunch of colleagues back about a mile and a half north. So it's been awesome. That press release 6 hours ago, it's great. It was unbelievable, right? So thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to also offer my thanks to everyone for working together to make this happen. Love the marketing update, that was terrific. I know the village is doing a nice job of tracking the progress of the stormwater, but you said educate, entertain, and engage. We need to educate, entertain, and engage our golfers to keep them through this whole process, get them excited. To rehash, this is a win-win. This is a collaboration between the Village of Winnetka and the Winnetka Park District, where we are receiving upwards of 56 acre-feet of storage. That's over 21 million gallons of water that we will be able to store in ponds, and newly created and enlarged ponds on the golf course for the benefit of the community, so that the tree streets won't flood. We're going to be able to utilize that water to irrigate with, on a going forward basis, do some very thoughtful, forward-thinking designs. So we'll be lowering the cost of potable water. We're crowning the fairways so that they're gonna drain. When it rains, we get closed for days on end because the water just sits there. That's part of the grading process. And then we're putting in cart paths. And that's gonna allow us to maintain cart play even on those wetter days. So all these things are for the improvement. And while we're spending, upwards of $10 million on the golf course improvements, if we were to provide that same stormwater storage underground, it cost over $20 million. So it's a win-win for the community. We get a much improved golf course, and of course, the process for helping the village solve the stormwater issue. So thank you, Kemper. Keep us updated, keep us engaged and educated and entertained.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you want to stay, you're more than welcome.
Thank you for attending.
Thank you, Vince.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mary Kay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Michael. Thanks, Dave. Good job.
Now we'll move on to the approval of the minutes. Without objection, we will act on the following items with a single vote. A motion to approve the consent agenda as presented, including minutes of the closed meeting of September 8th, 2022, minutes of the regular board meeting of September 22nd, 2022, minutes of the closed meeting of September 22nd, 2022, minutes of the committee of the whole meeting of October 13th, 2022, to be amended, minutes of the regular board meeting of October 27th, 2022, minutes of the committee of the whole meeting of November 3rd, 2022, minutes of the regular board meeting of November 17th, 2022. We have a motion to approve all minutes as presented. So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Ellen?
Very quickly, I believe that our executive director and I were able to find missing attachments that have been requested to be put into the minutes.
We've added
So,
those.
Have we added
We have
those?
one to add that is a presentation that was made by John Root, and so we received that today, and we'll add that to the meeting minutes that are specific to that presentation date, and we'll have all the attachments required for the meeting minutes.
I had received a inquiry by one of our residents, Ms. Dahl, who had a letter that she wanted to make sure made the
One of the
packet.
meeting minutes.
And so it's there. Thank you so
Sure,
much.
I think it's online, Kyle, it's already online. So we've already updated the meeting packets for which an attachment was required, but for the one where John made the presentation. So
Ms. Lake,
we'll get that
sending
tomorrow.
you that.
All good.
Okay, thank you
They're all
so
up to
much,
date.
Sean.
Does the
Thank you.
motion as made with including the amendment satisfy?
Oh, absolutely. Just
Great.
making sure, just
All right.
confirming.
Just want to make sure. All right. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Commissioner Rapp,
Yes.
Commissioner Root,
Yes.
Commissioner Seaman,
Yes.
Commissioner Kodo,
Yes.
Commissioner Archambault,
Yes.
Commissioner Lusson,
Yes.
Commissioner James.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Communications, Mr. Peterson.
So your board packet includes a couple of communications, certainly one from Cranes Communications and certain, the Tribune. So those are included in your packet. We received one communication earlier today, another Tribune article. I think it's more village-oriented, but nonetheless, that'll be added to our next packet. So keeping track of as many communications as possible, and we'll continue to add those accordingly.
Any other comments on communication? I just wanted to acknowledge Alex for getting on the front page.
Above the fold.
Above the fold
Above.
in the Chicago Tribune.
Pretty important.
It's a pretty big deal.
It is.
I know you don't write the headlines, but you do write the article. I thought the article fairly presented the information, and I congratulate you. I do want to note that I found a bit of irony with respect to the headline, in that this entire endeavor is to expand public access to the beach. So yes, nature belongs to all of us. We're trying to expand it and provide greater access to everyone. Thank you. Any other items of communication?
No, sir.
All right. Moving on to unfinished business. Winnetka Youth Organization. Kyle?
Thank you. In your packet is a board summary summarizing our discussions with the Winnetka Youth Organization. Specifically, recently, my discussion with Executive Director Safia Hassan as a follow-up to her presentation to the board earlier this year. They have requested an opportunity to speak further on their request, and with that, I'll hand it over to Safia and Ms. Sheila Dolkar.
Thanks, Ken. Hi, my name is Sheila Dolkar, and I've been on the board of the YO, as we call it, for 12 years. I'm a grateful parent, and I was fortunate that Mr. Thomas, we all know him, he wanted me to be on the board, and I served with him for the 12 years. And right now, not Mr. Thomas, so bear with me. He had a great spirit and a great fight for our organization. You are a partner with us, and we appreciate it deeply, and we appreciate everything you've been doing on our behalf to answer questions and to give us a good framework as to our partnership with you. I'm going to read the mission statement. We provide programming for what's part of you is a void for you, and you provide financing for our space as a special facility. So our mission statement with which John Thomas helped us write, it was May of 2019, I can remember it, making sure that we all were in line with the park district. He always reminded us of our mission and our partnership. To foster individual development in adolescents by providing adult to youth mentoring with opportunities for leadership, citizenship, and education within a positive, encouraging environment. Through our diverse, positive youth development initiatives, we empower adolescents to become more active community members, leaders, while also giving them opportunities to develop confidence, their own talents and skills. Really important. My experience with my kids, through the whole experience, Habitat for Humanity, I just saw my kids blossom through the whole experience. We've been a strong organization for 53 years in their presence in the community of Winnetka. Sometimes we've had our ups and downs, but you'll be happy to know our deficit is closed. We caught up with our deficit this year. It was really, we're real thrilled about that, and I know you are too. During COVID, we were able to keep our program going. I was really happy with this. Even though our funds were down, we depend on grants from the churches and also from Park District and New Trier. We were still able to keep programs going online so the kids were not isolated. We also had programs running online where we were teaching cooking, we were teaching them meditation, yoga, stress reducing, because COVID was very isolating, even for the adults. It's hard to imagine being a teenager during this time. And I think it was there were some sad incidences that did occur in our village. But I feel like we had kids that couldn't even ride their bikes outside. Their parents could not go outside. And there's little things you don't even think of. I don't know if I should bring this up. But like even getting your first kiss, like that's like, it's a worry for parents to have their kids out. And at the time there were no vaccines. So also located at the community house, that's where we are. The O is within walking distance of the Winnetka youth. For example, from Scott and Green Bay Road to the O is 1.1 miles within 21 minutes of walking time. Indian Hill to the O is 1.3 miles within 26 minutes of walking time. In contrast, distances to the GYS, which is Glencoe Youth Services, and the Warming House are twice as far. Using the Winnetka Village Hall for reference, the distance from Winnetka to GYSO Glencoe is 2.5 miles within 50 minutes walking time. Winnetka to the Warming House and Wilmette is 2.5 miles within 50 minutes walking time. Winnetka youth would spend up to 30 extra minutes walking to these centers than participating in programs in not counting return home. In addition, there are maximum capacities for limits in Glencoe at their youth services and the Winnetka Warming House that would also affect the youth. I also talked to Wes Bauman, who used to be on our board, and he was also a New Trier principal, and he had a strong feeling that, if we're talking merger, which we have in the past, we've tried to merge with Glencoe, and it didn't work out, and I can explain that in a few minutes. Wes always always felt that any type of merger or collaboration always maintained in each village a location within walking distance for the teens. And he felt that was extremely important, that the 3 centers remain open, even if we were to go under one umbrella. The other thing is, the capacities make a big difference. The other thing is we did try and merge, like in 2016, we voted in August of 2016 to go ahead with the merger with Glencoe. It took over, from start to finish, it was nearly a year. And as I remember, they tired of it. And it was many, many meetings. And so finally, we had voted yes, but they had never voted yes on it. And so it can take quite a bit of time, and to go without that funding for that long period of time would be difficult for our organization as having a partnership with you. It could go better. I mean, it could go, we don't know. But there's always things to work out. Each village, combining services doesn't mean combining locations. As I talked to Wes about this too. Also, finding the best, most cost-effective combination of services can take up to a year. A 10-month combination discussion failed to materialize when the Glencoe board did not vote on the proposal. So, meaning of the merger even itself has to be identified, and each individual village has, say the Glencoe Park District has Glencoe Youth Services in their building, and the Wilmette provides the boarding house building. But we have no space here in Winnetka, so that is why we always contribute towards our space, as what Mr. Thomas.
And you're located in Winnetka?
In the community house, yes.
In the basement.
In the basement,
Right.
yes. We're in
And I'll add a point real quick to that. Even though they're provided with buildings, their park districts also pay their utilities. So they're still essentially paying to keep their lights on as well, even though they're providing the building. So.
I didn't realize that, thank you.
And you are paying, I'm not.
We're paying ours. We're
To the
raising money,
community
we're
house.
paying ours.
Yes.
We're paying ours. And we also, by the way, we have some really wonderful donors, and they're very loyal to us, and they love the fact that we're the drop-in center in Winnetka. So, also, any cost savings, like I said, require a complete analysis. And keeping the funding from the YO, I feel could be very destructive and harmful because of, we would like to keep it going and keep it open. And we're waiting for a lot of funds to go in. We right away for grants. She's everywhere. She's our silent. She's everywhere. She's everywhere. I go, you were there? I'm like, how are you in all those places? She's making connections. She's making collaborations. We're coming out of yoga. We're coming out of COVID so strong because of her. And it takes a while to get your numbers up. But she's put on, we've had collaborations with Battle of the Bands is back. Everything is back.
And we've been invited to speak at New Trier High School to their social service board. We've been invited to be a part of one of their 14 organizations that they partner with in the community. So that organization, that social service board, they do projects 7 days a week with 14 organizations. And that actually takes up one of their blocks during the school day. And we've been invited to come speak to them to have our name listed as one of the 14 organizations that they partner with, which is huge because that's never happened before. Yeah, currently Erica's Lighthouse is the only community organization that has a club at New Trier. We have someone on our youth board who right now we're helping her in collaboration with Glencoe Youth Services. We're filling out the application to get an official club at the high school. That application is due at the end of February so that the club can get started in March. We have kids from all 3 centers that are on board to sign the form so that we can have that club. Because one of our problems, which you see in the comparison of our numbers of teen visitors versus versus the number of teams that are actually in the community is that we're actually not allowed to promote anything at the high school. So we're not allowed to put up flyers, the teams aren't allowed to promote any of our events because we're not considered an official partner with the high school because we don't have a club. So as I mentioned, that's something that we're working on. I met with Dan Lowell, who's in charge of the social service board, who's a teacher there at New Trier High School, and he's the one that invited us to come in. And so that's something, we're also working with a social worker at North Country Day School. Those are all some different things that we're doing. You also mentioned the capacity, so the capacity of the organization. And one of the things that you'll know, and I have some maps that I can pass around, Glencoe Youth Services is so removed from this community and from the schools that we typically service. We've been partnering up with them to provide team volunteers to help run a lot of their middle school programming. Their center, they have like a maximum capacity of 20, and that's with the staff and the kids, for you to comfortably be in there, and there's no distance or space for you to be able to easily spread out either. But we've been there, we overflow to the outside. Right, but now that the winter is coming, we're going to be moving a lot of that programming to Winnetka and also to Wilmette. Another thing that's come up when it comes to the mergers with Warming House, we're talking about collaborating with their board. They have a, was it a strategic planner, or they have like a mediator or something that they work with to do a lot of their strategic planning. And I think the cost was $500 an hour, and they won't sit down and have a conversation with us unless we agree to pay half of that fee to have a conversation just of our boards coming together to do things, let alone the organizations coming together. But but we brought on Glencoe Youth Services as well. We have a meeting set up with their board and the, So, you know, we're doing all the steps. We brought back a lot of the pre-COVID programming. We had a cookie baking demonstration, for example. So we've been doing a lot of like those pre-COVID plannings as well. Our youth board went from 0 to 6 and it's ongoing. We have increased interest in that. And like I said, every month we decided to rotate activities or programming that happens at the 3 centers, and that's under the advisory of the township. But one of the issues that we also ran into was transportation of kids when they're coming from Glencoe, or if they have to come from this area to Glencoe. So you also see on the map that I can pass around that Winnetka kids going out, or even Glencoe kids coming in, they're gonna spend at least an hour on public transportation, and that doesn't include the wait time. And so that's another issue that we ran into as well, because then, you know, money that would go into programming would have to go into busing or providing that transportation or renting out bigger spaces. So that's another issue that we run into as well. And also she mentioned the combining of locations and how it doesn't mean that all the centers would be gotten rid of. A lot of the kids that come to do specifically the community service, whether it be from a court order or even from, you know, school requirements, they walk over. So it's not like they're driving or being dropped off by a parent. A lot of them walk over to the center to complete their community service. And so that's another point that I'd like to make.
Yeah, also, that's a big point that, well, Wes had said that too, the importance of walking distance to the youth centers in each village and facility were really important. So there was complete access, like say, that the residents of Winnetka would have complete access. And you being partners with us, we'd both be fulfilling each of our missions that I believe. Also, anything we do with junior high is, any of our programs do not compete. We don't compete with the park district. We just fill in a void. And we also are open to discussion. If you want to know about any programs or you have any input, we're happy to talk to you about it anytime.
And we also provide scholarships to the local kids as well.
Yeah.
And so after we lost John Thomas, we actually had an influx of people donating to the scholarship fund so that we could provide scholarships to graduating seniors and others who have been involved in service. And I think that's also something unique that we're able to do compared to the other centers. Our partnerships have been really strong. We have Battle of the Bands planning. It's going to happen January 21st, so we are bringing back a lot of that pre-COVID programming. Right now, we're in the process of working with a local sorority on bringing a youth symposium, and that's going to take place in February. So we have a lot of different things that happened pre-COVID that are starting to come back.
It's coming back. It's coming back.
Are you ready for questions or comments, or are you?
Yeah, we can take questions.
I just want to say that I used to be on the New Trier Township Youth Committee for 6 years until I finished in Winnetka is unique in that we do not give space to our high school youth organizations. Wilmette Park District gives them free space. Glencoe Park District gives them free space. We do not. We don't have that capacity, although talking to Kyle Berg today, and talking to Brian Leverance today, I believe there might be some options, maybe not big, but Glencoe's not big, and Wilmette's not big either. So that might be a place to start. The second thing is, the village of Winnetka has generally not given any funds.
Right.
Glencoe does support their high school youth drop-in center generously. Wilmette does not. It does not any longer. It used to. So our youth agency is unique in its funding needs and its rent requirement. So that's what I'd like to say. I think it captures a student who is not necessarily attached to a sport or music or an academic or a club at New Trier. And for the 212 unduplicated attendees that you have, I think it is an option for them to connect, which I think is really important, especially with COVID.
And I agree. I mean, we've even got kids who have transitioned to being online students because of bullying. They come into the center.
Yeah.
So we've had situations like that, and we've been able to make really good referrals to places like Willow House for some of our teens who have lost their parents and other things during COVID.
How long have you been at the community house?
Dad, I wish, you know what, I'm the person with the
Yes.
history now.
Yes.
I'm like,
Yeah.
Dave, how long have we been there?
Oh, at least
My
20 years.
husband's here,
At least
Dave.
20 years.
It's been
At
a
least
while.
20 years.
And how much space do you have at the community house?
We have the basement.
We have the basement, which they've
Is it
extended.
200 square feet, is it 500 square feet? Is it
Oh, I'm not
1,000
sure
square
about the
feet?
square footage.
Closer to 5.
Maybe.
500.
Closer to 500 square feet. And how much
It's
are
hot.
you paying in rent?
It's about a little more than 1,400, and we have reached out to them to talk about, you know,
On a monthly
reductions.
basis?
Yes, on a monthly
1,400 a
basis.
month.
The total annual number Brian gave me was 18,000 a
Yeah.
year.
Yeah,
About
that's
that. And so,
probably, yeah.
yeah,
That sounds right.
because I sent him a copy of the rent receipt.
Yeah.
But we have talked to them, we've talked to them, but because they're a nonprofit, they won't budge on the rent or on any kind of reductions, even though they also have to utilize part of our space, like their internet box is in our office, and so they still have to come into our space from time to time.
In our closets.
Yeah.
We're like
Yeah,
Christmas
one of our closets actually was being utilized by them as well as a storage.
Yeah.
Do you have comments or suggestions, or have you, any ideas?
I would say from the staff perspective, we fully support the Winnetka Youth Organization's purpose, the mission, the work that they do. I think what gives pause is the nature of our funding and where it goes towards. You know, paying for the rent is not, I believe, for programs that we can supply funding, that's not the purpose we would seek to have in the effect of that funding. You know, just as the need for the Winnetka Youth Organization is unique as compared to our neighboring organizations, so is the nature of the funding that they receive. It's not an apples to apples comparison, in my opinion. Because we don't have extra space available that we can make available to them, extra space that we may already pay utility, we may already have functioning, it does cause us to operate at a loss. There's also the nature of the funding. In order to be in compliance with our obligation as a park district and a taxing body, all of the funding comes from the recreation fees. And so there are some differences in our case as compared to some of our neighboring cases. That all being said, I am absolutely willing and excited to work together. If there's a way to use a space that we have currently to fulfill the needs of the organization, I would love to explore those options. Is there a willingness, if a space was presented as potential, is there a willingness to consider other options?
Of course. We just realized we investigated everywhere options through the town, through the years, and even during COVID, we were like, what are we going to do? Because we were still running our program. we've been in this space for a long time. I think that, we'd be happy to move our foosball table into your area.
Yeah.
We'd be happy, right?
Yeah.
And remind me again of the age range of the
Hey,
children that
Ingrid.
you're serving.
Oh, yeah, we do. We usually try to reach out to 7th and 8th grade up through 12th grade. The reason that we reach out to 7th and 8th grade is to transition them in. And so that gives them really good exposure, and we actually get a lot of really good response. When we had our open house, the parents that came were middle school parents, and their kids were in 8th grade, 7th and 8th grade.
It was so good. It was great. They were great, and they enjoy like I said, it's like we need the bridge, the solid bridge, so they know who we are. But we don't mix them. We don't mix junior high with teens.
Right.
We don't think that's a great idea.
Right, and most of our outreach to the middle school we do through Washburn, which has been on pause because of COVID, but now that we have an intern, he's gonna be with us 5 days a week
Oh, that's
in the
great.
spring semester as well, for school, and he's a bachelor's in social work student, and so he's also gonna be available to be at the center or to be at Washburn, depending upon how we need to utilize him.
So I think there's an ask, correct? And we need to make a motion and a decision on funding.
Right now.
Not necessarily, we've considered this before, not
And
necessarily.
we've had
But
discussions
we should-
about this before.
Yes,
We have a recommendation from Kyle.
yes.
I don't necessarily know why we need to, I don't know why we need to.
I'd just like to say that, I mean, I have been thinking about this because I do feel like it's, like you are a very worthy organization. But when I look at it, I mean, I do have kids in your target segment, so I'm looking for communication out there, but just thinking about it, I mean, like, our Indian Hill location, which is, I suspect, underutilized sometimes, it's like, when I think about, if you were going to choose a location, it doesn't get better than that for access to New Trier, really.
For programming
For
purposes,
programming
yeah.
purposes. So I feel like that's an area that as a park district, we should really be considering further as a way to help support, just because it's so close, and so easy for the kids to get to. I'm excited to hear that the Washburn programming is restarting, because I think that will help generate more support, and, I look forward to hearing some more communication.
I mean, we also sent out a survey to alumni who, a lot of them started out as middle schoolers and continued on to junior and senior year of high school. And so when we get those responses back, we'd be happy to share that as well.
Well, I'd like to make a motion that we consider some space alternatives. And boldly, I'd like to make a motion that we make a $10,000 grant. It's less than half of what you asked for, but it does provide you with something to cover the interim. You serve a population we don't necessarily serve. You serve a population that doesn't fall neatly into any of the other programming categories or any of the other areas at New Trier, and I'm impressed that you're finally on the page with New Trier. So those are my,
We have a recommendation from staff to continue to pause, and
Yeah.
we've talked about letting staff, and we've had conversations with staff about this. Staff made the decision to continue to pause. I think what Kyle is really saying is he wants to continue the dialogue with the Winnetka Youth Organization, become more familiar with it now that it's back up and running post-pandemic, and then perhaps, because it is coming out of the recreation fee fund, not taxes, fees, right? That you could come to us in the middle of next year and say, you know what, I spent a lot of time with the Winnetka Youth Organization, maybe there's some value that we can provide them on space. Not sure what that means for PERMA and insurance, but you can come to the board later. But he made his recommendation to us that he should continue to pause, not trying to be a bad
no,
guy.
that's
But I
fair.
think we should, the motion to be, we continue to, well,
Yeah.
take a look.
What was our donation last year?
In based on my numbers, we did not make a donation in 2021. In 2020, we made a $10,000 donation.
So, and I guess my point would be, this organization may need us critically now. That's my point.
We cannot make a.
Hang on, both boards for that, right? I do want to come back to,
initially, and then hearing tonight, I think that your organization does such wonderful work, and it reaches, if I understand, adolescents at a time that they really need your services and your help. Fundraising, what plans do you have for fundraising this year?
Our fall fundraising
Can I-
is, oh, go ahead, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you, we couldn't have our fundraiser for 3 years. I'm sorry.
Well, but we're having it in April. We have a date set.
I'm sorry.
Right now, we're looking at a space for our spring fundraiser. Our fall fundraiser had already kicked off. We've already got all of our letters out and already received some responses. We've applied for funding from Cook County. We've applied for, other grants as well. We've reached out to different foundations, the Rotary Club, the churches can contribute.
You are continuing your outreach for funding.
Yes, yes.
Other board members want to comment, Eric?
Can I ask one other question?
Please.
Christina has suggested you may be at a critical point at this juncture, and I guess my question to you is very direct. Are you at a critical point for the need for funding to pay your rent?
Yes, we're still at a critical point. The funds that we get from the township, which we truly appreciate, they come every 4 months. And so we're not expecting any funds from them to come again until February or March. So yeah, we did have a deficit, which one of our funders was able to give us money early to cover that deficit. So we're not at a deficit right now, but we're definitely at a critical point where we would love and need to have the funding.
The answer is yes.
Yes.
The answer is yes.
Vicki?
Yeah, senior board member here, listen, the Winnetka Youth Organization provides services that we don't, that we would love to do. And to say that tabling this or not giving them any money now to me is a travesty. We're gonna stop being Jacob Marley and Ebenezer Scrooge. These people need the money. $10,000 is an easy thing for us to do to support a wonderful organization. We should do nothing less, and we should probably do that.
Eric, do you have any comments?
Yeah.
John, with respect to our ability to make this fund, is it in keeping, Kyle seemed to reference some constraints on our ability to.
I think there's a population that the Winnetka Youth Organization serves that we currently serve as well. So there is some level of crossover there.
I mean, technically, legally,
Yeah, we can
keeping
provide
with
that.
our charter.
We can do that. Yes, sir.
I think it's terrific. It's a very useful service. And I think that different kids find different places that meet their needs. And if you provide that, some kids may find it in sports, some kids may find it in scouting, some kids may find it in Winnetka Youth Organization. I'm in support. But I'd like that this not be a continuing thing. I'd like to explore more constructive relations. If we can work with Kyle to find something, money's money. If there's space, if there's any resources, that we can collaborate, that'd be great.
Yes, that would be great. Thank you.
Kyle?
I made a motion, I think I need a
There's
second.
two motions, no seconds.
Yes.
All right, so you want to restate your motion?
My first motion is that we work with the Winnetka Youth Organization to help them find space within our resources if possible. And my second motion is that this year we advance them $10,000.
This year being 2020.
This is like this 2023.
2023.
2023 or 2022? I mean, what's your, yeah,
Is it better for the budget for
2022?
We could make either work.
Let's make it 2022. Early money is better than late.
Yeah.
I second both motions.
All right, motion is second, any further discussion? We take them individually, or take them?
I don't know if anybody's gonna vote differently on one or the other, but,
I am. I'm
if
going
that's
to
the
vote-
case,
I'm
then
gonna
we
vote
should
different.
take each
All
motion
right,
separately.
first motion.
First motion is on the space. I move that we work diligently with the Winnetka Youth Organization to find space in our portfolio of buildings.
That's seconded by Nikki.
Okay,
Will we do a
roll
vote?
call, please.
Commissioner Lusson,
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp,
Yes.
Commissioner Root,
Yes.
Commissioner Seaman,
Yes.
Commissioner Koto,
Yes.
Commissioner James.
Yes.
Commissioner Archambault.
Yes.
Motion passes.
And my second motion is that I move that this year in 2022, we advance the sum of $10,000 to support Winnetka Youth Organization in keeping with the history and the programming that I believe reaches a critical population.
Did I second that?
I did it. I seconded both.
Sorry, that's second.
Motion and second, roll call please.
Commissioner Archambault,
Yes.
Commissioner Lusson,
Yes.
Commissioner Root,
Yes.
Commissioner Seaman,
No.
Commissioner Rapp,
Yes.
Commissioner Koto,
Yes.
Commissioner James.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you for the great work that you're doing. Consideration of the 2023 board meeting schedule. May I have a motion to approve the 2023 board meeting schedule as presented? So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
These are the same that were presented to us.
Yes,
at
sir.
the Committee holding.
Yep.
The revised,
We've
yes.
seen this a couple of times.
Yeah.
We
The
look,
revised ones.
and we look into when spring break is for the Trier Public Schools.
Yep,
Make sure it's
we
not
did.
conflict.
Okay, good.
Trying to thread a needle with Loyola, New Trier, North Shore Country Day.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't matter to me, I don't have kids in school.
I don't know that it was on that specific exhibit, but we have committed to a January 21st workshop session, Saturday, January 21st, at 10 o'clock. So there's a motion, a second. Do we need a roll call?
It is a, yep. So, Commissioner Archambault?
Yes.
Commissioner Lusson?
Hold on.
Oh,
Just,
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
has the calendar been thoroughly vetted with staff? Because I know when I looked at the latest iteration, had 3 meetings in November.
Yeah, the third meeting in November is on November 30th. It allows us to finish, otherwise we put a meeting between, we push it a week, and we have a meeting between Christmas and New Year's, which nobody wants to do. So it finishes up, it causes us to finish on December 14th, right? Or-
Point of clarification, you are not amending your schedule to include the workshop, are you?
I'm happy to do that.
Well, I think we need to discuss the workshop before it goes to the calendar.
Typically,
Okay,
this is for regular meetings and regular
Thank
committee
you.
meetings.
Thank you.
So it wouldn't normally include a special meeting for.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay, well, we already passed a motion to hold a board meeting, special workshop session on the 21st. So we already had a motion and it was passed, so either we include it on the agenda or we don't, or include it on the list or we don't. I have previously stated that it should be included because a motion had made, seconded, and passed prior to the adoption of this.
My only point is, the state statute requires the board to approve an annual schedule of regular meetings. That's what you're doing here. The fact that you've already approved a special meeting to have a workshop is irrelevant to the action. we're
Okay.
taking right now.
Thank you for the clarification. Motion made, second. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Archambault?
Yes.
Commissioner Lusson?
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp?
Yes.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Seaman?
Yes.
Commissioner Koto?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Motion passes.
We're on to Elderman Centennial. The meeting packet includes a draft outline for the January 21st, 2023 special board meeting. Quick reminder, the intent to hold this centennial-specific workshop was unanimously approved by the board. The goal tonight is to ensure the workshop covers all the key items and has done so in a community-oriented forum. Costa.
Warren, thank you. As discussed previously and voted upon at the October 27th meeting, which was passed with the motion, in front of you tonight is a workshop summary to talk through the plan or the outline, if you will, for the events for that day. There are a list of different station numbers for that. I do apologize, there's a typo with station 4, it's repeated twice, so stations will actually be numbered 1 through 6, corresponding to the, to the outline. But nonetheless, wanted to have something drafted in preparation for tonight's meeting to gain consensus around the park board as not only the intent of the meeting, but the deliverables that were projected for that meeting thus far. There has been a collaboration with the Lakota group in the background, because there will need to be support from our outside design firms to help us complete the exhibits required for this meeting. So what I'd like to do is run through the different stations at a high level, talk through any of those stations, or if there's adjustments that needed to be made, we can make those tonight, solidify an outline so I can get started putting the boards together, putting the, the materials together as we look to the 21st for that meeting date. I also would like to confirm the location address. We are planning to host that in this facility, in this very room, correct? That was the intent from what I understood. And
Is it gonna be big enough here, or do you wanna have something in the lobby area? 'Cause these
we'll stretch through this office as needed to create the space that we need to. The other option that we might want to consider would be to look to one of our facilities here, say a tennis court or something else, where we can lay it out a little bit further and hopefully get a little bit more venue space.
We haven't had, we have a tennis lounge as well that can be used, if that needs to be one of the stations.
Yeah.
We've done workshops in here
Yeah, we have.
over the years, and it flowed really well.
I think it's a question of, do we want everybody in the same place at the same time, and is this room big enough?
But it comes down to, is the space big enough for 6 different stations? With the amount of publicity that we've seen thus far, that would be what's in question. I would think that our neighbored facility here at the AC Nielsen Tennis Center, if we were to set up on a single court, I think we should be able to supply enough space on a single tennis court to lay out. But I would need to affirm that with the tennis manager prior to. But we can enter through there and then go out to potentially court to do that. I would suggest probably court 4. The gallery board, it's pretty well secluded, and we can try to keep it quiet if there's other play going on.
I would suggest one location, not
Yeah.
just because of the weather.
Yeah.
The bigger the space in some ways, the better, because I would guess it's gonna be pretty well attended,
Sure.
you know.
And will we have audio-visual equipment associated with this, or just boards?
We were not anticipating to record this. It was gonna be boards.
No,
as
not
needed.
recording, I mean for any presentations.
We'll have to confirm whether there's gonna need to be. If there is, we do have the ability to bring a TV in there and a recorder to it or a computer to it to enlarge. I don't foresee that need or required at this time, but we'll identify that through talking through the different stations.
Can I add one other possible location? The community center was the host for the, I think, the 2040 plan for the village, and there were opportunities to go around, and I felt like that was, is that an ample size, do you think, Colleen?
I thought it was very nice.
Yeah.
Big room.
The community center had a room that
Yeah.
maybe is twice the size of this, the community house.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if anybody else attended that community house session.
Okay.
We would have to affirm that the
Correct.
location is available. I would say this is really short order with weekends coming up.
Correct. Fair point.
Especially the holiday, but that could be something we look at as well. Maybe we use that as priority 1 if it's identified and confirmed by the board, and then use this as a backup, meaning the AC Nielsen Tennis Center, or however the board sees fit.
Golf clubhouse?
Simulators and some of the other things they set up, it gets a little cozy in there in the wintertime, so I think that might be a little bit of a stretch.
Good. All right, you'll come back to us then?
For the location, I'd like to talk through the stations as they're presented, and more than open for dialogue through this. So station 1 is to review the history of the sites and the project to date, talking about the background information. Blurbs and information as it pertains to Lakefront Master Plan, the IDNR Coastal Management Plan, and they, has put forth to date, Cook County dog park regulations, pictures and prior beach conditions that were previously presented by the Lakota Group and Shavika and Associates, using some of those informations that already have been distilled down, existing photos from other previous work that has been done for the sites, and existing plan sites as they sit today. Site plans from the 2030 plan representing both phase 1 without the acquisition of the property and phase 2 with the acquisition of the property, once again to set the stage for the history of what was completed thus far. Station 2, moving on to Elder and Centennial Beach plans themselves. Once again, the overall plan as exhibited at the October 27th meeting, and the Stone Light plan, as well as the concept dog beach plan for Centennial, presented at that very evening. Also want to pull sheets from the completed drawings for the stormwater relocation, sheets C4, C5, as well as some exhibits to identify the existing discharge versus the proposed discharge. Once again, these are at a very high level. Had a chance to talk with members of the Lakota group, once again, because we're not going to be able to do all this in-house and inherit the way that we have in the past with the designs that we've completed thus far. We have had to use their expertise to help us through the process. As we move into Station 3, there's going to be design.
One comment, I just would suggest, again, what's really helpful is if we have, I don't know what the proper term is, I don't know if it's a vertical, like.
Cross-section.
Cross-section, you know, we have this, we have the view from overhead, which is fine, but what we miss is how it feels, or how it's gonna look. Profile.
With the elevations, right.
So hopefully that'll be, I would love if, for these various designs, that we could have a drawing like that.
We will. It's anticipated. I'm going through the higher level with the board tonight. From a staff perspective, those are things that already have been identified and talked through the Lakota team. And we'll be continuing on with that. So we can show the profile view so people have a better understanding of what 591 means in elevation. Looking from a plan view on the top, it doesn't really show the function until you see it with the water line and where that is as far as it looks beyond the beach. So putting that in perspective with profile views has been identified as far as the completed documents that will be presented.
Great, thank you.
Station 3, talking about design examples. Once again, some of this will be similar boards that were presented. Headland Beach Systems, that was motioned by the board to continue forward with that plan or that style of plan. Materials for the breakwater, showing the board of the elements of what that could consist of. Materials for the walkways, the boardwalks, fencing, etc., as well as the ADA access pathway.
I don't want to get too deep in the weeds, but there was a suggestion for the use of different types of stone. Can you get pictures of the different types of stone?
Yeah, we can take a look at, between limestone and granite.
Right.
Take a look at quartzite. Correct.
I would also, just as a costs for each of these.
I will suggest that as we finish up with the RFQ, which it needs to be submitted by the 21st for those people who are going to be participating in the selection process of the different firms, part of that process after it's identified and we start landing on plans is to put projected costs together for the associated different projects. And also a magnitude of cost, looking at what's a high level, a medium level, and a low impact based on a phased implementation that we can further with the board once we get to that point. I think the biggest objective come the 21st is to really get back to the community, create a workshop setting where we can engage and have that dialogue that I think they've been yearning for, and could keep the dialogue moving forward on the project in a positive manner.
Can I interject something here?
Yes.
This is one of the reasons I asked about date. We have an RFQ for a coastal engineer, and I would think that a coastal engineer's presence and looking at all of this would be very critical. I'm just wondering how we go from getting our bids in on the 21st of December to getting a contract negotiated with the selected experts, and then having them up to speed. I would think you would want to have them as a very prominent presence at your workshop. So how are we gonna, just from a,
Sure.
how are we gonna do it?
Bids were open, right?
So the pre-bid meeting was this week for an opportunity to sit down with any firms that had further questions on the project in regards to the scope and services. The questions for those were due yesterday. The responses for those will go out by me tomorrow afternoon as an addendum to anybody who secured information.
So it's a pre-meeting you had on 13th. That was
Pre-meeting, so if there's any questions as far as the
And when are we gonna see bids?
Bids will be submitted on the 21st. The review will happen therefore after. The week of January 6th is when we're going to look to sit down with the team to select, or the first round of interviews. And then the following week is when we would look to try to solidify a recommendation to start moving forward with that.
So we have a meeting on the 12th, that's our first meeting, and that's a committee of the whole meeting?
Yeah.
We're looking to have that selection narrowed down to a recommendation by the 12th. I will suggest, it was brought up on Wednesday, or Tuesday when we had the pre-bid meeting, that whoever is the finalist is part of the requirement, part of the bid, or I should say the RFQ, to attend the meeting. So whoever we identify as the best qualified for that application is gonna be already known, and they're aware that their firm will be in attendance of the 21st.
And may I inquire who is on your selection committee, who is participating in the selection process?
That typically has always been a staff selection process, so that would be the department heads, if you will. I'd be looking for John Peterson, I'd be looking for Kyle to sit on that, myself, and probably one other member of my team to sit on that as
But
well.
you're making a recommendation?
What's that?
You're making a recommendation, you're making a selection?
We're gonna be sitting down with each firm, interviewing them based on their criteria, the
Okay.
submittals that have been submitted, their, the 5 to 7 bullet points that were created, talking about the firm's exposure, the clients, or the,
We saw the RFQ.
yeah, I'm
We saw the
sorry, I'm trying to go off
You
memory, I
know.
apologize. I haven't
You
got
don't
that,
have to
but
detail it. I just
we're
want
gonna
to
go
try
through
and
it,
get to the.
drill down to the
I
top
wanna
2
get
to
to this
3,
point.
and go from there.
Are we able to make a selection on the 12th?
That's the objective.
Okay.
And then once it's identified and selected, that's when negotiations for cost come in after the fact. These also don't come in until after the, best qualified and most qualified candidate is selected.
But my guess is, and correct me if I'm wrong, that throughout this process, they're gonna be studying each of these proposals, and they're gonna be close to 90% certain of what the materials and the costs will be. So, I mean, this is what they're bidding on, evaluating these projects. So they will be getting up to speed as soon as they see these renderings, or as soon as they see these plans.
That is correct. They will not be up to 100%, I will not
Yeah.
suggest that, but they will be read in, they will understand what is going on, and for the workshop setting, I feel that's more than, accommodating for our objectives for the 21st of January.
And
Moving
nothing,
forward, we'll dive in deeper.
and nothing's saying that the 21st of January is the end of the process.
No, that's-
Right,
that's- that's-
Because I would say the workshop may generate questions that
Right.
may hone
Right.
additional work from the.
Right,
Right.
there might be a second
Right.
workship meeting,
Okay.
or a third, or
And
whatever.
and
the
it's
case
and
may
it's
be
an
moving
and it's
forward.
an education process to understand the trade-offs, the different designs, and
Yeah.
how they'll perform. Right, thank you.
May I just make a comment?
Sure.
The determination was that for Elder, the coastal engineer was coming in and doing a peer review. It was my understanding that for Centennial, we were actually going to seek the coastal engineer coming in and looking and vetting an entire design and plan. Am I mistaken on that? In other words, that we would do this process as at least this commissioner thinks it should have been done, where we have the coastal engineer from ground level building up and interfacing with staff and our other experts.
There are several constraints as defined by the motions that were already passed. One, the implementation of the Henwood Beach system. Two, the ADA access path. Three, the dog beach. And then we have the separation requirements of the dog beach. So there are parameters which define or constrain, I should say, the approach. And I think the idea through the workshop is to help to flesh that out, so then we can get input and design advice real time from the coastal engineer. So that's part of this ongoing process.
So the way I understood it was maybe a little bit different from you, because I think you wanted the coastal engineer to start from zero. We had some good design opinions and momentum from people in our citizens and from members of this committee, this board, who also have spoken to a lot of citizens. So we were able to narrow those centennial designs down so that the coastal engineers' work is sort of evaluating these options against each other. That is not to say that the coastal engineer cannot come back and say, you know, this really should be this.
That would be my hope, that we
I
could
think
use that
that's
expertise.
I think that's what we're narrowing the options that he's evaluating, but not closing off any other additional commentary.
And that was the reason
He
for
or
my
she.
prior comment.
Yeah.
That would be my sincere hope. Also, I think it's somewhat disingenuous to call this a workshop when it rather looks like we are almost saying, here's the plan, take it or leave it. Where is our resident feedback in all of this? Where does that come in? And where do we look for thoughts and ideas from our community
So,
to continue to do that?
yeah, but I don't think Centennial is yet set. So we still have options.
Whatever the coastal because I was looking through this to say where are we getting the inputs, but you may cover it, so let's, and then we can come back to that. as a
Good point,
question.
thank you, Coach.
So working through the design examples, once again, those that have been affirmed through the prior motions that have been completed, the Station 3, the Headland Beach system, the breakwater elements, putting together walkways and so forth, the AD access. Station 4, the first one, and my apologies on this, timeline and approved motions and designs, elements to date, putting together a timeline of the historical path that this has seen thus far, and the motions that have been approved thus far verbatim, so people understand where we're going in the direction that was given by the board. And then moving into, which would be, pardon my, typo here, would be Station 5, proposed Centennial Dog Park, talking through the beach parameters, design illustrations based on the approved motion on the 27th of October, talking through those design elements as previously reviewed and discussed for Tower, trying to make good work of that, which was completed prior to with the Dog Beach Committee and the Lakota Group, bringing back ideas and examples for a potential bypass around the dog park, so that pathway to walk beyond the boundaries of the dog park can be done in a safe manner without having to traverse through the dog park. Examples of fence details to help contain the dog park per the Cook County ordinance, or excuse me, regulations. And then from there, Station 5 or Station 6 talks about the property exchange agreement. Once again, identifying the exchange overlay so people have an understanding of what's proposed, the timeline, Winnetka waterfront observations, or excuse me, 2030 overview in the property acquisition plans that were previously discussed ahead, as well as any additional exhibits that might need to be required at that time, depending on where things are at. What is not listed on here is the marketing piece, or in this case, the communication piece for the community input. The comment cards that we'll have out as we do with the open houses, working up a message board. That's where I need to engage with the Lakota Group a little bit better to figure out best ways to retain information. What we've done previously in this room when we did our last go around for the lakefront, we had Post-it notes where people were able to write down their comments, pick your top 2 or top 3 tier improvements that you'd like to see at the facilities, comment cards that we're able to pull back. I don't know at this time if there would be a survey that we put out, but that's something we could look into or look into and possibly put out as well. Maybe not an extensive survey, but maybe it's a top 3 or 5 questions that could be answered. But that's where I'd like to have more open discussion with the board tonight to make sure that we're drilling down to the expectations and we're meeting all the expectations, not only of the board, but.
We just had a caucus survey.
Yeah.
We just had a caucus survey.
Sure.
1,300 respondents out there. A lot of really good information. I don't think we need another survey.
Sure.
That's my view.
I do think that we should add as one of the exhibits, the plans that Orchard submitted for permit, so that we can look at them in context and be able to understand how anything we do in Centennial would relate to that. And I think it's safe to say there are ongoing negotiations with Orchard regarding design elements, but those design pieces are going to be held off so they can be done at this workshop. And we have invited Orchard to, obviously, he's our neighbor.
Yeah,
Needs to participate. It's a critical component that if there are concerns, it's another item on our agenda, if there are concerns expressed as to what is being proposed on Orchard's property, it abuts the end of our existing Centennial property. It should be part and parcel of this discussion.
Yeah, I mean, if
The essence of it.
If he
right
goes
away.
ahead with, if the permit gets approved, then he has a breakwater on his existing property line. Makes no sense for us to put more stone on our property.
And to
That would be a-
understand that just because a permit's issued doesn't mean it's gonna be constructed. But
Correct.
it means that's what it's gonna look like if a permit's approved. And our opportunities to negotiate collaboratively in a way that we can find something that works for both parties.
One question, Costa, so as part of this, are you gonna have various Centennial breakwater options?
So previously, there was a couple plans that created options 1 through 6, and I believe if memory serves, we gravitated towards option 6. We would use those as a fundamental plan thus far, just so there's something on paper, but nothing that actually has been completed or approved, such as the motions that have been for the Stone Light A2 from the 27th of October for Elder.
6 was the steel drawing to the water.
Steel/stone application.
6 was the groin that separated the dog beach from the swimming beach, well away from the property line.
And there would just be a steel, the existing steel.
Yeah, that's, I mean, presumably we need to get into this workshop session and invite Orchard to participate so that we can communicate in public as neighbors, understanding that if he does something without he's already submitted for permit applications, we know what he's looking to do.
Right.
The time to collaborate and to communicate is on the 21st and work towards a mutually beneficial solution.
Correct.
For those that weren't here, what was the Lakefront Master Plan workshop, the open house we did in here, was that 2018?
The workshop themselves were between
16
or
15, 16?
The committee was formed in 2014.
Yeah.
All those sessions took place in 2015. It was adopted in 2016.
We had a session in here, and I thought it was really great, those that weren't participating at the time. We had the boards, we had the Post-its, and people went up and put like what they liked.
Right.
And it was very simple, it was colorful. You might not like the answers, right? The number one response was the restaurant.
Yeah. That
Look how far we've
workshop.
come. So anyways, that's just what you
You're
get.
thinking, so then there was a public information session that was held on March 24th, 2022. That was this year in this room. And so
Many years
that
ago,
was,
is the one I'm thinking about.
yeah, the one many years ago was during the design session.
I was on the board.
But we held a very public session. We had the mock-up of the louvers in the middle of the room. We had all the other plans. We had the video. And we went through a lengthy presentation. And I would invite everyone to review those presentations because they're part of this, or they should be linked to this, especially the Shabika presentation that talks about the history of the lakefront, the fact that we live in a sand-starved environment, and as a result of improvements that were made, 100 years ago up at Great Lakes Naval Training Center in Waukegan Harbor. All that information is contained in the Shabika presentation, and then we had a presentation from Lakota that went through all of the various lakefront designs and some of the history. So that's all background information to inform the public. It's what we've already done and helps inform our decisions going forward.
Are we addressing Mary's comment? She said, can we have something if the property exchange doesn't go through? Mary made that comment, so we are addressing that in one of these stations?
That will be identified.
Okay.
I just want to say, looking at this, I feel like there's a lot of stuff that we're talking about to the public. I don't feel like there's a lot of things that we are asking them for input on. I think that just thinking about high level, questions that the community has or has raised us where I'm sitting in the same place and I can see both, you know, both kids out there. And so my sense reacting to this is that we are not getting that kind of input on, you know, features that, you know, I want a place to fish. I'd like to go out and look at the end of the pier so that I can see fish. Like, I feel like we're not getting some of those kind of feature things, and we have,
Cynthia, listen, we have to start somewhere.
no, I know, but what's our input feedback?
And,
You can change the scope of the feedback. You can just ask for feedback along of the broadest variety people want to give feedback on. I mean, that's what happens at public session, and that's all useful, right? I mean, I mean, you can ask, that feedback would be acceptable to us. If people came and said, I really, you know, where can I go fishing here, or that's what's important to me, that's completely acceptable. Do you think that we need to identify every single item that?
I think we need to identify some big items, like, are people happy swimming next to the dogs? That's a good question, like, that's a good question. Like, if we spend $12.5 million and put this in and have dogs swimming in boats, are people gonna wanna come?
I don't know where you came up with $12.5 million, but I wanna turn the field to Costa.
The organic nature of what the open house setting or the workshop, in this case, setting allows for is that exchange of ideas and that organic, hey, walk me through this. I don't understand that. Are you gonna allow for this? Are you not gonna allow for that? What's the thought process behind that? That's the organic nature of having these settings where we can have a one-to-one dialogue, where there's a question, an answer, and a response, and then we can take that information, distill it down to say, hey, what I've heard at the meeting was, here's the top 5 talking points that was brought to my attention, and vice versa. You know, whoever's gonna be in attendance from the board's perspective, you're gonna hear that firsthand. And if you're at the previous meetings, I guarantee you've heard that firsthand already, that, hey, what are your thoughts on this? I know I spent quite a bit of dialogue talking through conceptual designs around loopers and the heights and understanding how they, you know, how they're gonna affect. Well, fortunately for us, they're gone.
They're gone.
They're gone, right, fortunately for us, that's gone. So now we're drilling down to said, okay, to David's point with the illustrations, okay, walk me through the, you know, be able to see the horizon. How am I gonna be able to enjoy the beach beyond Winnetka if the stone's gonna be at 591? Well, we're projecting the stone to be at 587, where the beach elevation's gonna be 585, so you have a 2-foot differential. So we'll be able to show that and express that to the public so they understand better. Now, there are gonna be input that says, you know what, I think that putting the dogs next to swimming is a horrible idea. Great, you know, let's take that input and let's put that forward in front of the board so they can make an
That's the way
informed
it's been
decision.
for 25 years. We have
So-
Elder next to Centennial, with a small little place.
And
Don't
a
tell
chain
me the
link, and a
swimmers
chain
don't
link
swim.
fence.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
been
I-
obliterated.
It's been going on, I mean,
Right, but I mean, that's the organic nature of having these open forums. It
Yeah.
allows the public to be engaged and not have to hold back on a question. They can ask a hard question instead of having to say, okay, I got 3 minutes to put my response together and that's it. Hey, I don't understand this, walk me through it.
Yeah, and Cynthia, just from your comments alone, I understand the need for more communication and a comprehensive view, because to me, it's very, very clear. We passed a motion, Elder 2A, which takes the storm discharge and moves it 200 feet further north and further out. And that's a paddleboard beach. That was already established. The swimming is further away, not at Elder, but on the northern half of Centennial. And then the option 6, that everybody said, that's our design preference. Centennial 6 has stone groin separating the dog from the swimming area. That's the detail of that, the context, the content. How do we properly keep dogs and swimmers separated from one another? Better than a chain link fence that we have today.
You know, it's interesting, if I may, it's interesting, because this 2030 plan can be amended. We've watched it be amended. This dog beach theory that we're going to have on Centennial is definitely an October 27th sudden amendment, bam. We've had people come, residents, and say, well, guys, if you can do that, then why don't we move the dogs over to Elder And why don't we make the most beautiful beach we have in this community, which some say it is, Centennial, a tree swimming beach? So I would I would hope that this workshop would be able to take in comments and consideration, and we might find that by gum, we can further amend our waterfront plan to accommodate that. And then number two, if we're going to have all this history, and we're going to talk about the CZMA, can we extend the Coastal Zone Management Act, CZMA? Can we extend an invitation to have a actual representative from the IDNR, CZMA, come and be present to talk to our residents so that they can actually, now, I don't know if Jim Casey is still living in the state of Illinois. I know our residents have been trying to meet with him in IDNR offices, and he will not meet with them. Instead, he is sending them to an applicant's technical expert's office. Can we extend an invitation to Mr. Casey to come to our workshop, or an IDNR representative to come and meet with our people?
There's a lot you said. First thing you said was, can we amend? I thought the purpose and intent of all of the discussion was to narrow the focus, to set parameters. This has been going on since 2015 from the Lakefront Master Plan. Is there an appetite to reopen and revisit the motions that were passed on October 27th?
No, not by me.
Not by me,
Not by me.
not by me.
Yeah,
I
there's
think
just
those
no
motions,
appetite
I
to
think those-
revisit all of this. We're trying to narrow the focus.
I think those motions are broad enough where there can be design
Within them, yes.
variables, but listen, the motions that we have made and have passed as a board, it will be a better beach for all of Winnetka. Nature belongs to all of us, not just dog owners. We will have people without dogs that will be able to access Centennial for the first time from Parkville. So the dog beach should remain where the dog beach is. To me, it makes no sense to put a dog beach where the Elder Beach House is. Why? I mean, why? I think the beach house is there. It's a beautiful beach house, has been used in 3 years. We want people to be able to access that. So I don't know, I think the motions we made will make this beach without a question better for
David, to
all of us.
answer you, the reason is Elder has been and continues to be our most contaminated beach. And
I
so-
don't think you can make that statement. We don't have the data that supports that.
Well, I believe we're testing now as of the 1st of October.
In addition, we're moving the stormwater. So we really don't need to rehash all of this right now.
Right.
I think that there's a consensus among the board not to reopen the motions that were made and passed on October 27th. Does anybody feel the need to want to straw poll again? Eric, are you open to amending these motions?
No.
Christina?
No,
Cynthia?
If our intent is we've made these motions and we're going ahead and this is an attempt to educate the public, then we should be positioning it as this is a public education session.
The question is, are you willing to reopen the motions that were made on October 27th?
It depends on which ones, we made so many.
Okay.
If we have other compelling
So
feedback from this session, I reserve the right to consider.
I think there's five board members that are not looking to reopen, but trying to stick to those parameters and build upon those. Can I ask to poll the board as to its desire to go through this workshop independent of the consideration of the exchange, and to focus on the design as these designs benefit the community to provide greater access. I want to say it again. Centennial Park has been locked, fenced, gated for the exclusive use of the dog beach owners or pass holders for 27 years. part of this whole endeavor is to provide greater public access to Centennial Beach, one of the, great vistas from Winnetka. So that is part of why we're doing what we're doing. That was part of the recognition of the Lakefront Master Plan. So I want to continue with that. And I want to, and this board, so everybody understands, all agrees that the design efforts need to be done in public in this workshop session. And that obviously we would invite our neighbor to the south to join in that discussion because he's got a pending application. And if he proceeds to do that, it obviates some alternatives that might be a win-win.
I'll go back to your first comment. Yes, this should all be done without, or should be done independent of the property exchange.
Correct.
The public resoundingly told us that there was too much design discussion that occurred in private with Orchard 2020. This, I believe, I think, I'm often wrong, but I believe that this session on the 21st is trying to do design independent and in public, independent of the property exchange and in public, with public input. I think that's a really good step forward for us. So this is good on the 21st.
So maybe we need to hone what some of the input is that we are seeking, because I think we're just gonna end up with comments that are not actionable, or, like, we're gonna end up with a hodgepodge of stuff.
But I don't
that we
think
I don't think
I don't
so.
think you wanna manage that input. I think you want that input to be open and organic, and people can say, I think you wanna take all that input and weight it equally and consider it, and then that's our job with COSTA.
So are we getting, so for example, in 2019, with the IDNR grant, the sessions that Eric is referring to, I think,
2019.
2019, there were sessions with an IDNR grant that were held in this room, that were facilitated by Lakota, that had storyboards going down.
Bluff restoration.
Bluff
restoration.
Bluff restoration.
Bluff restoration.
Okay.
We got lots of input on park features. We had a survey, I don't know that we've seen the detail, like the results of the specific survey. We had a report, we had, information from that. How are we gonna go from, you're walking around, just hearing about the history of the Lakefront Master Plan to, gee, we don't want the ADA path to launch out Mid Bluff, and, what should that
So
look like?
COSTA just said.
Is
he
it
doesn't-
okay to have the
Yeah.
ADA path at the
Yeah.
park with no bathroom? Like,
So-
I
So COSTA just said he wasn't sure how to gather the input. He doesn't know if it's gonna be Post-its or comment cards, and Lakota has experience in gathering that input, and I'm sure that they'll assist us in the same way. But that input doesn't have to be narrowed or confined or constrained in any way.
I want to come back to, we've established parameters, I think they are reasonable, and they will put some brackets around what we're discussing. One of the big things that we need to discuss in January is Orchard's plan or his proposed improvements, and how they relate and how they would interact with anything that we would propose on Centennial. There is an ongoing negotiation. If we don't come to a resolution, Orchard will proceed with Orchard's plans, and we will be left to address our needs. It's better to do that in a public session. There's gonna be letters coming back and public comment. I think it would be far more constructive for us to engage in the 21st, invite Orchard and their representatives to participate. They are members of the public, just like everybody else, except they have a special interest in that they're our neighbor, and they have an existing proposal. So it's time to do this in public, invite the discussion, and try and work through whatever resolution we can.
And this, I would bet, this isn't the last meeting. This isn't the last workshop. I would bet that, I think we're gonna need another one, as you had mentioned. So,
I would suggest, David, that's spot on. This is an opportunity to get back in front of the public, to re-engage them where we're at, what the motions look like on paper as far as showing them visually so they can interject and talk through that with the board and staff and consultants. Then take that feedback, move forward into the next step. We'll then have a coastal engineer on, as part of our team, the design team. We'll reaffirm our design principles as they relate to whoever that might be, the Lakota group with a proposal, Burke Engineering with their proposal, Space Coast Civil Engineering with their proposal, to then reform the team to continue down this path. We'll finalize and come to conclusion on a path for 2A as it's shown for Elder. If there's things that come up in the peer review that need to be discussed, whether it's as related to stormwater, as it relates to the elevations, as it relates to the heights that we've selected, and the magnitude of potential washout or wave events that might cause erosion issues that want to be brought forward, those are the things that are going to be flushed out. We'll bring that part back to the board, talk through that. We'll have information to start focusing in on the design path for Centennial, and keep this discussion and dialogue moving forward. I don't foresee the 21st being the end all, that we're gonna have 2 plans and we're gonna have a motion in February. This is the start to keep going, and get back engaged with the public and get that credibility back, the engagement back, and make this a cohesive process for the board and the public to be re-engaged.
So this is an outline.
This is a draft outline.
We should finalize it by the 12th, on the meeting of the 12th. So we should get, or before that, really before that.
I will suggest that this is finalized for the 12th. There's no way that I'm gonna have the documentation
All
here
right,
by the
then,
21st.
all right, then take that back, it's gotta be
Just being
finalized.
honest.
I do wanna make one thing with respect to Elder. There was some exhibits regarding storm discharge and impact. Is there a way we could get, any professional engineer to give us a proper illustration of what that might look like under the new configuration?
About that, yes.
And is Burke the appropriate party?
They are the appropriate party as it relates to stormwater.
Okay, great, thank you.
The only other comment that I would have is that it sounds like we are planning to be engaging Lakota on some basis with this, so we had, okay, so you're gonna start
To your
getting
motion,
a proposal?
the 22nd.
Yes.
They are working on a proposal,
Okay.
but what I wanted to ask the board tonight, because of the motion and the timing that is put in front of us, I would like the board to give me the authority not to exceed a proposal or work for this scope of work greater than $15,000 with the Lakota group and any other ancillary partners, Burke or Space Co, that's needed to create the exhibits for the 21st.
How much?
Not to exceed 15,000.
Is it total or per vendor?
That would be total. Now, I want to be respectful of the motion from the 22nd, that we, moving forward, even if we had a relationship, as long as we were greater than the 25,000, there was supposed to be a proposal brought in front of this board for approval to execute and move forward. So I want to be respectful of that. I was leading into that. But with the timing and trying to get this engaged and trying to move all this forward, the 21st, it's a little cart before the horse. I apologize on the proposal not
So
having
you're
come to
looking,
you.
you're looking for the board's consent. Do we need an action, or is that within your discretionary authority? That's within discretionary authority, but
I would suggest, based on the motion that was approved by the board moving forward from September 22nd, I would look for this board to give me clear direction and approval to spend not to exceed 15,000.
So I'll make a motion to authorize Costa to.
Hold on. I would also be concerned about Lakota's scope of work, because they do have expertise in these kinds of public engagement. So are we looking just for 15,000 for the drawings? Should we be leaning on them also to help? Like for the Village 2040 plan, they did follow-up surveys. For other things for us, they've done follow-up and engagement.
I don't know what
I would
scope
suggest-
Costa's talked about, what I hear Costa saying is, he needs authority, or we won't have exhibits ready for the meeting of the 21st. That's what I'm hearing you say.
Correct, and the feedback, at this point, there's not a communication plan or a marketing plan on how to get that information and return it back. The action for the 21st would be to have simple public engagement for comments, questions, concerns to be brought back. If we want to take that to a higher level as it's engaged previously, or Lakota's done for us in the Lakefront Master Plan, that would come in the future as part of a proposal, and that would not be in place by the 21st.
I feel like it might be beneficial to just think about, like, because I think people in the community are feeling a little bit like an overload with the Lakefront Master Plan, so is there a way to draw a parallel to, like, Hubbard Woods Park or some other engagement sessions that we
I'm not
did
sure
that were
what you mean.
successful?
You know,
Or
what-
Dwyer?
Expand on that?
What, I don't know, what?
I just feel like, I'm not sure that this format is gonna get us the positive energy and feedback that we're looking for.
I would suggest
my-
that per, the master plans that you're talking about that were completed, there wasn't a level of engagement. It was basically form and function in this room and pulling the board on what direction we should go, and then using Lakota and their expertise in the industry to present design concepts, and then those design concepts came back for approval. Hey, we like this, we don't like that. I will say for Dwyer, we did poll, and oddly enough, I presented to the YO at their platform because of the, the outreach, to talk to tweens and other people, engagement as far as what play product should be there for the playground. So to that extent, for Dwyer we did, but not to the expectation I think you're thinking about for like the master plan with the open houses and the real engagement where we polled, 170 community members and drilled down with design sessions and talking sessions and multiple surveys. That's not what we're looking to do here and now. That doesn't mean
So
we
maybe it
can't.
would be helpful then to recirculate the 2019, like the survey questions and the reports from that.
So all
to the
we
board. I
need,
just,
yeah, but all we need to work on for Costa's next step is the authorization for 15,000 total across those vendors. And the marketing plan, we can talk about, the feedback gathering plan, we can talk about, and we should talk about, and we should, I personally think we should make it as broad as possible. But we have a motion on the table for Costa's 15, which you need to go next step.
I'll second it.
And then the marketing plan is gonna require some additional conversation on the
You
12th.
wanna come back with some ideas and thoughts?
We can.
Yeah, I think that's a good next step.
So there's you make a motion. Motion to authorize Costa to spend up to, not to exceed $15,000 to the exhibits necessary to conduct the January 21st workshop session.
And that's a total across all vendors.
Across
So
all
not to
vendors.
exceed.
Got it.
So I move,
Yeah.
Second.
motion and second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Archambault?
Yes.
Commissioner Lesson?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Seaman?
Yes.
Commissioner Kodo?
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp?
yes.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
All right, motion passes.
Any further discussion of Elder Centennial before we move on? Yeah.
I would really like to encourage staff to extend an invitation to an IDNR representative to come to this workshop. And quite frankly, I don't know who that person is because Mr. Casey works contract. I don't know if he is within the boundaries of the state of Illinois. I know that there's a deputy director, John Rockner, with connections with Winnetka, and he might be willing to come, don't know. But he has a lot of friends here, grew up as a child, spent a lot of time here. I think it would be very helpful for our community to actually have the regulator who understands all this
Will Shabika be there?
present.
Will Shabika be there? A rep?
We are currently not under contract with Sweeten Associates.
Okay, let's assume we have a contract. Will Shabika be at the
Workshop.
workshop?
I can request that,
I'm
might
just
be
thinking that
beyond my threshold.
maybe Shabika's a way that maybe he, I don't know, maybe he can invite someone from the INR.
I could put I don't have a problem
We're gonna
extending
get
the
the coastal
offer
engineer though,
Yeah,
for them. I don't have a problem with that at all. I can't guarantee that they're gonna have a representative here, that's all I'll say.
Do we need another motion to,
I don't think we need a motion.
No,
This might be-
let's cut to the quick, let's just invite him, let's keep this simple.
All right,
I'll put out a invitation.
John?
One of the other elements that Costa and I are coordinating, we're gonna ask John McGovern, who's the president of Recreation Accessibility Consultants, to attend so that we add additional content and competence for ADA-related features across the board. So it just adds to Craig Culp within SSRA, so I think you have two remarkable experts who can lean in.
All right, thank you. We ready to move on to 8.5, discussion of status of Winnetka Park District IDNR comments regarding the applications submitted for 205 Sheridan Road. The meeting packet includes the Illinois Department of Natural Resources revised public notice for the Orchard 2020 Revocable Trust for the construction of a shore protection system at 205 Sheridan Road, Winnetka, Illinois. Of note, the notice timeline provides an extended comment period through January 3, 2023. Posted.
Warren, thank you. As briefly mentioned previous to this with the prior discussion, excuse me, Orchard, or the property owner for 205 Sheridan Road Orchard has submitted an application to the IDNR for public notice for shore protection system. As was brought up and discussed at a high level, further review has been completed by staff, drilling down through the complete document of the entire submittal. I believe it was 28 pages in total, with AECOM full packet of materials, as well as the deliverables for the joint application for IDNR and AECOM Bill Weaver's review and lead in for the letter. There were different things that were identified and discussed at the previous board meeting on the 1st. Since then, we've had a chance to review those items, distill down some comments and questions around those items. We can go through those here at a high level to discuss them. I'm not sure to what level. What I'm looking forward to is having a determination on what the board would like me to include and not include potentially into a response to the IDNR and the Army Corps. What points, those that have been included in here, is there any adjustments that the board would like to see? And then from there, put together a formal level response, review that, submit it back to the board for a prior review before submittal here in the short term prior to the January 3rd closing of the permit application response time. I can go through each one of these items in greater detail if the board would like. I just don't know what level and how much time you want to commit to this.
This is really important. So, I'd love to hear detail. Before you do that, I want to be really clear. I'm all for freaking individual property rights, and I'm all for Orchard 2020 submitting what they want to do on their property. However, we have got, it's our duty. I believe it's a very important duty of the executive director representing the public and the park district, and really the broader community, and anybody who accesses our beaches. We need to be very strong on our letter to the IDNR. I completely respect the property exchange that we have with them, the negotiations that have been going on for a considerable period of time, but we need to be very direct, strong, respectful on passage, on vegetation, sight lines, boat ramp, stormwater discharge. I saw your note. I don't know what written by you and through John mean. What does written by you through John? What does that mean?
It means I draft and I submit it to John for his review prior to submittal into the package.
I thought it was weak.
So,
I thought the wording is weak,
sure.
just so you know. Want to be respectful to Orchard 2020, but definitely want to perform our duty to the public.
Sure.
In our response.
All right, so this is kind of an opening, the other opening. Does anybody else want to do an opener before we drill down into the specifics?
All I would say is this has nothing to do with the land exchange, or proposed land exchange, land swap, nothing to do with it, right? We're just, as a neighbor, reviewing the proposal and delivering a response.
Right, correct.
Further opening, it would seem to me that we would want to make the IDNR aware that we are moving forward with our workshop, that we have a plan I received comments from residents this week who actually went and met with Rick Weaver at AECOM, that as far as the agency is concerned, they're totally unaware that we have any plans to do anything. And the comments coming back from the residents where the agency had telephoned in, they were meeting with Mr. Weaver, was that the IDNR said, well, if we do this, and this is sincere, this is very important to us, because one of our comments as a park district may be, hey, agency, there's no immediacy here to grant this permit. Let us come in and show you what we're doing. Can you put this kind of on the stay for the moment? Because, well, I get very direct on this. How much stone and steel do we need to dump in a lake if our neighbor is going to do a 9-foot northern breakwater? Then obviously we may not need to do the same thing, or vice versa. But anyway, comment.
Anybody else want to make kind of big picture comment?
No, I'm gonna hold it.
I
Wait till close to
want to
session.
reiterate what I said previously, that we should definitely communicate to the IDNR that we are hosting a workshop session on January 21st, that we invite Mr. Ishbia and his representatives, including his coastal engineer, to participate. It is imperative that we openly communicate our mutual desires for that boundary that we share. And if Mr. Ishbia goes and does something independent of our concerns, he would, we might take umbrage to that, just as he might if we do it without his input. So we would invite him to participate. Just because a permit's issued doesn't mean it gets built. But there is the issue that this existing steel, I believe it dates back to the 1950s. It does not respect the extension of the current property line. If we were going to utilize that in any way, shape, or form, we should evaluate its structural integrity and consider replacing it before you spend a bunch of money moving forward. So, again, invite Mr. Ishbia to participate on the 20th, suggest to the IDNR that this is an open public process that the board endorses, and if we have other specific concerns, we can discuss them now.
So what's gonna be the process of making sure that each and every board member sees this before it goes to the IDNR?
So once we'll talk through the talking points tonight, make sure that we have all the bullet points covered. We'll draft a formal letter. That letter will then be reviewed by John. That letter from John will be sent out to the board in its entirety. And then any comments that come back, I would suggest get vetted through John, and we can make any adjustments or changes to the letter. I would think that a final draft then could be resubmitted to the board to make sure that any any detail or questions have been properly addressed, and then formally sent out certified to both agencies, not only the IDNR, but the Army Corps as well.
And that needs to be done by January 5th.
That has to be
Second.
Before the new year, how about that?
So the process, David, is similar to the budget process. After tonight, we'll draft a letter, we'll make sure we capture any of the comments that have been made, I've been writing them down. We'll work collaboratively to put a letter together, we'll call.
I mean, my
Mr.
comments,
Brown, we'll call Mr. Root, we'll call each of you.
my comments stand as the email that I sent you on the 21st of November. So I warned, you were CC'd on it, Costa was CC'd on it. I'd be more than happy to have a discussion with you about it, but again, I don't know, again, if this is a draft necessarily that we would send it.
This isn't a draft of a letter by any means.
Right.
This is just the summary, ticking off, talking through the top talking points that will then be formulated into a letter that we formally send.
Okay.
This is just an outline to review to make sure it's captured.
Cynthia, do you have specific input?
Yes. One, it sounded like you were reaching out to the agency for information about the, vegetation and the vegetation boxes, have you received a written response to those inquiries? Because I personally feel like the notice, because of the lack of information about those particular design attributes, is a little bit limited, deficient, lacking, whatever word is right. Because there's no visuals, there's no dimensions. So have you received that back?
To that point, the way that I structured this is that request would go in.
I'm gonna interrupt.
Go ahead.
I'm trying to make this an efficient process
Sure.
where each board member can submit their comments, so we all know what you're addressing, and you can follow up in writing to Costa, but just to outline so that we can get through this process. So to outline specific comments, submit the comments in writing to Costa, then we follow the rest of the process with the draft.
Supposed to say he was gonna outreach. Has he outreached or not? Did he answer or not?
I've reached out to the Army Corps of Engineers and then IDNR. I can, per the board's recommendation, I don't have, ability to negotiate with Orchard or work with their team. So part of that, I'm not gonna reach out to Orchard's team to get information. Part of the outreach
So
will be
to
this
distill it
letter
down, the
response.
request is for additional information regarding the proposed plantings.
So we don't have it.
Okay.
We're gonna request it.
Part of this letter, correct?
Okay. Sand nourishment. Did they go through the, like how, I know that we're on the north, but is there any component of sand nourishment that needs to happen as a neighbor?
Sand in the littoral drift primarily goes south. So in this case, there would not be sand placed on our property based on the design as it's shown. And placement in the future, I'm assuming, is gonna be marine application, so it would not affect us directly.
Okay.
The steel that's jetted out beyond the limitations of the 125 feet of the breakwater as is proposed will stop the littoral drift prior to hitting their structure.
Okay. I would also suggest that we have some outreach to the IEPA or copy them on our response or get some information about when it is anticipated that their public comment will be. Because I think that that is also an area of concern based on the placement of the stormwater discharge.
Sure.
And the design.
I will suggest that a 401 water quality permit is triggered by the anticipated approval of from the IDNR. At that point in time, I'm not aware of any public outreach from the IEPA. It's an internal review within their system to review that from a water quality standpoint to either approve or amend if there's changes that need to happen. They would project those to the 2 o'clock resident, and they would have to amend it to meet their qualifications. I will suggest that the stormwater that is being delivered off-site here is for a single residence, and the design of filtration, from my perspective, I am not a licensed engineer by any means. We're doing this to dissipate that within the stone to filter it, and that's as I have it noted in the summary, but once again, we'll look to have clarification on that.
Okay. And are we, within our rights as a neighbor, I mean, we can invite them to the workshop, would that count as a public hearing or some kind of public direct engagement?
If we invite
If we invite them,
DNR,
yeah.
it's not going to be, I mean, we're talking about an informal presentation, if you will, that we're putting on in connection with the development of a design. That's not part of any formal permitting process, so no, it wouldn't. I mean, our meeting's gonna be a meeting that has to be noticed up under Open Meetings Act, but there's nothing special about it if we invite a representative of IDNR.
So should we request some kind of public hearing so that?
No, I don't think there's a need to. We don't have an application right now pending with any agency for a design, so there's no basis or reason for this organization to have a public hearing.
Are you asking for a public hearing by Orchard 2020 Revocable Trust? Is that what you're
Yes.
asking for?
Yes, so that they're presenting their plan.
That's up to them. They're the applicant. We can't force that, and we shouldn't force that.
That's the jurisdiction of the IDNR and the Army Corps to decide if that is required. I know part of
Based on
our
the
design.
comments?
Based on the comment, the next phase, as we've discussed previously for our original submittal back in April for our plan, was to take that to that next step, and if it was requested, that could be done. From what I understand, and I could be wrong, they've only done that once over like the course of 30 or 40 years where they've actually had a public setting for that to happen. It's a very rare request that does not truly happen a lot. I will just note that Winnetka Park District is not an authority or nor do we have jurisdiction on anything proposed formally on his site. Everything that's in there will go through the proper agencies, whether it's stormwater, and it has to go through MWRD for direct discharge, and through IDNR, whether it's the IEP for water quality, whether it's the Army Corps to meet the regulations of their regional permits, whether it's the IDNR for the coastal application, whether it's the
Coastal,
Corps for the
thank
bill.
you. Thank
That's
you.
not our
Thank
money.
you. Thank you. We get it.
Sorry.
We get it.
I've been reading into this. So.
So I think,
Colleen,
On November 20th, I sent you, John, and you, Warren, some very preliminary comments after I read this notice. Since then, I have received communications from residents where they have tried to actually meet, and I mentioned this earlier, with representatives of the IDNR in a government office to look and see what the plans actually were. They were informed by Mr. Casey that he did not have the capability, and residents have been told to contact Mr. Rick Weaver with AECOM, Orchard 2020's technical expert, and to go to AECOM's offices where Mr. Casey then he patches in by a conference call. In the last 2 days, I've had comments, people calling me, saying that they are afraid to go to Mr. Weaver's offices because they do not want to be identified by such a prominent applicant as having concerns about the design. The concerns are relative to what we once called planter pockets. It's what Cynthia just referenced, this reference of raised beds with native plants. There's no details, so we don't know what those are. Secondly, on the southern boundary of Orchard's property, apparently there's going to be a pier, and there are going to be, again, metal stakes going up, dual, I guess we would call, I don't know what to call them. The concern that the residents, and many of these people have technical training and expertise, i.e. engineers, what their concern is that you will be standing on the beach at Centennial and your southern vista will be totally blocked by first a high stone breakwater on our southern border of Centennial. And then looking southward, apparently on his southern border, there is more design. Frankly stated, it appears that the desire to fence and limit access continues by this applicant. This comes me back to a request for a public hearing if the community and our residents cannot meet with the agency. I would like to suggest that in our comments, we do seek a request for a public hearing so the community can feel safe to go to a public office and have their comments heard in the protection of a hearing where there is a formal record, so that they can communicate freely and not have a chilling effect on how they may submit comments.
Mr. President, can I just
Please,
interject?
please advise us.
I would like to ask that the board defer any further conversation about this particular subject until after we have a chance to consult in closed session. I think there's some information that I think needs to be shared with the board relative to the matter that's being discussed right now, and needs to be done in closed.
I think we should discuss it in close, but I don't want to cut off specific input to the letter. That's it. The rest of the stuff, residents are, we don't control what the IDNR does.
Zero jurisdiction.
We don't, this is not our purview. It's up to citizens to provide their own comments. This is to us for a board to decide what communication we are going to send back to the IDNR in this matter. That's it.
Yeah.
And we're soliciting specific comments. So,
Certainly encourage the public.
We have zero jurisdiction, we have two government entities that are responsible for
And
acting on behalf of all the citizens of Illinois. Let them do their job, I don't know what else there is really to discuss about it. If you don't think they're gonna do a good job, that's an indictment on them. That's a different story altogether.
Christina?
I'm just concerned that there's an accusation that of some pressure and citizens are afraid. And I'm sorry to hear that, but I think that they have certain protections available to them. These are agencies that function to protect them, and they need to trust in those agencies. It's not, we can't insert ourselves in that process to leverage any additional performance from those agencies. It's not our place. I mean, you have to rely on the integrity of those agencies.
Unfortunately, the IDNR appears to be very poorly staffed. Their employees, well, it does to the extent,
What are we
Yeah,
supposed
I
to do
think,
about
look,
to
I
the
think,
extent it does have something to do with us. We are the park district who is the contiguous neighbor.
that's
And
why we're soliciting input
Correct.
from this board, not from third parties. It is not our role to advise and intercede on the behalf of residents when they have an opportunity to go directly to the reviewing agencies. We are crossing some very dangerous boundaries here.
not interceding on behalf of our
But
residents.
you are suggesting that we do so.
No, what I'm suggesting is that in our comments, we seek a public hearing. Will it be granted? Maybe not, but if it is, it will provide a forum. Secondly, as a park district, I think it is incumbent upon us to represent our constituents. I think that's why we're here. Forgive me if that's not why we're
There
here.
have been other beach enhancements on properties that have neighbored Park District property land. And we have never asked for a public hearing.
I think a public hearing is way out of bounds. You just heard Chris say that
Let's just
there's only been one. I think
Let's
we've
get
got to
that- let's get
advance
that
this
back.
discussion. You've had your say, you've had your say, Vicki?
So, some people like simplistic things, so I want to be simplistic on this. We provide our comments. The government agencies are going to go through everybody's comments, and they're going to make their determination.
Right.
We're not going to govern them. We're not going to bully them. We're not going to say what they need to do. We're going to provide our comments. And our comments should be that we potentially have a concern about viewing angles, given what height a stone breakwater might be. Simple comment. Let the IDNR and those agencies respond to that. If they're okay with what's being proposed under that permit, we have nothing to say about it. We provided our comments, as does everyone else in the public, but it's up to them to make that. So they're gonna go through a variety of comments, they make their judgments, and they come back. I think that's what the process is on our end. I don't wanna overcomplicate it, or worry about everyone's contingency, or how they get to what meeting, or who they need to be afraid of. Let's just do our damn comments and put them in, and keep them simple.
So we're going to submit any further written recommendations to Costa to consolidate, and then we will,
We're gonna start drafting
Yeah.
tomorrow.
yeah, we can get
And
to John.
we'll wait for your comments. Please send them in no later than Monday, end of business day. We gotta go.
Yeah, my preference is that the preamble would be the invitation to Orchard 2020 representatives to join us on the 21st, so we can collaborate and arrive at something that's mutually acceptable.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Consideration of ordinance 591. May I have a motion to approve ordinance 591, authorizing a donation and donation recognition rights agreement with the Winnetka Women's Club for the Dwyer Park gazebo?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I wish Melinda Brockman, Nancy Nagel, Marla Fagan, and Denise Azizian are here because they have been unbelievable in advancing. This is the first ordinance that we're reviewing, restricted donation to support the repair and maintenance of the Dwyer Park gazebo. In collaboration with them, we'll also have a naming recognition plate, if you will, a plaque next to the Dwyer Park gazebo to recognize the Winnetka Women's Club for 20 years. So it's a fantastic partnership. Costa Catulus has been active in it. We're looking at ways to provide some benches that are functional as well. So it's terrific.
And this was a matter that we fully discussed, and
Reviewed it.
considered,
Yep.
very grateful to the Winnetka Women's Club. So there's a motion, a second. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Archambault.
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp.
Yes.
Commissioner Lesson.
Yes.
Commissioner Root.
Yes.
Commissioner Seaman.
Heck yeah.
Commissioner Kodo.
Yes.
Commissioner James.
Yes, please, and thank you.
Motion passes.
Consideration of ordinance 592. May I have a motion to approve ordinance 592, authorizing a donation and donation recognition rights agreement with the Winnetka Women's Club for the Green Bay Trail.
So moved.
Second.
Again, great club in its entirety. I should give recognition to the entire club, but the same four women have been terrific in collaborating with Commissioner Root and Commissioner Archambault, and also with Costa Catulus. So you've had the information in prior communications. Commissioner Rapp, sorry. Commissioner Rapp. So,
Well, Costa
thank you.
fully deserves recognition
And-
for its positive role in this
Good job all
process.
around.
Yep, great teamwork.
Terrific. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Rapp,
Yes.
Commissioner Archambault,
Heck yes.
Commissioner Lesson.
Yes.
Commissioner Root,
Yes.
Commissioner Seaman,
Yes.
Commissioner Kodo,
Yes.
Commissioner James.
Yes, please, and thank you. Consideration of ordinance 593. May I have a motion to approve ordinance 593, authorizing and providing for the sale or other conveyance of surplus personal property of the Winnetka Park District, Cook County, Illinois.
So moved.
Second. Second.
Thank you.
Trustee.
The purpose of this ordinance is to identify the listed items as surplus. They are essentially no longer of use or benefit to the park district. This process, I want to make sure that I clarify, is not guaranteeing that tomorrow we go sell it and money comes in all done. This will be a two-step process. The second step to this process will be a property transfer agreement with whoever the buyer or recipient of the property may be. I'm specifically making reference to this for the outdoor ice rink materials. Those are the materials that actually have value still remaining. The additional two items, the scoreboards as well as the air hockey table, the air hockey table was donated some time ago. Out of respect for the donation, I wanted to make sure that we acknowledge the surplus status officially. And the scoreboards are currently defunct. We don't have any power equipment. We don't have the current use or understand exactly where they came from. So that's where we stand right now. At a time that we have a destination or a potential destination for the ice equipment, we will come forward with the transfer agreement for approval with the board of the sale price, where it's going, and how it's being handled. All liability will be built into that transfer agreement so that any handling is the responsibility of the recipient or purchaser in that situation.
Any questions? Hearing none. Roll call.
Commissioner Root,
Yes.
Commissioner Seaman,
Yes.
Commissioner Kodo,
Yes.
Commissioner Lesson,
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp,
Yes.
Commissioner Archambault,
Yes.
Commissioner James.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Consideration of ordinance 593. May I have a motion to, that should say 594. May I have a motion to approve ordinance 594, authorizing a supplemental property tax levy to pay the principal of and interest on outstanding limited bonds of the Winnetka Park District, Cook County, Illinois.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Jim?
Thank you, Commissioner James. Quick little bit of background here. A number of years ago, the state of Illinois put tax caps in place. In order to allow governmental entities to meet their obligations, they created something called a debt service extension base. The district has the authority to levy up to that debt service extension base an amount for the repayment of principal and interest on bonds. The debt service extension base grows by the CPI percentage each tax year. Currently, the debt service extension base for Winnetka is about $894,000. We're not looking for anywhere near that amount of money. We're looking strictly for what we need to meet our obligations on existing bonds. That number has not gone up. It's the same amount we levied for 2022. And this is a pretty straightforward request, and we're well within our right to do so.
Okay.
This is specific to
Specific to
one issue.
One issue, 2014.
The 2014.
Yes, that's correct.
So when you say not even close to 800,000, what is it? Do we actually do this? Do we levy for this, or is this?
Yes, we levied for this. We levied for this last year.
Okay.
$384,000.
Jim, can I ask you? Wait, excuse me, John answering the question.
I think it's $384,000, correct?
Yes, yes.
Steve,
Yeah,
sorry.
I misspoke. Yeah, the current debt service extension base is $384,459. We are only asking for $366,151.
So is this a limited tax bond that we're issuing and receiving the amount of the debt service payment for the limited bonds? Is that what we're doing?
The bonds were issued a number of
The
years.
limited, I'm sorry, the outstanding limited bonds, you're just, okay, so that's not, you're
We're
not talking.
authorizing an ordinance that we can,
Usually the tax levy for the repayment of a bond is included in the bond ordinance. So I'm just a little confused, I didn't see anything before the meeting, so. I mean, if you've worked this out with bond counsel,
Yes.
fine, I just was unaware of what exactly we're doing.
No, Chapman and Cutler reviewed this,
Okay.
and they made this recommendation.
All right.
Very comfortable with it.
all right. Further discussion? David, yes, no?
No.
Okay, all right. All right, hearing no further discussion, roll call please.
Commissioner Root,
Yes.
Commissioner Seaman,
Yes.
Commissioner Koto,
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp,
Yes.
Commissioner Lusson,
Yes.
Commissioner Archambault.
Yes.
Commissioner James.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Consideration of a temporary fund balance waiver. May I have a motion to approve the temporary waiver of the minimum fund reserve policy?
So moved.
Your second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Jim?
So we talked about this at our committee of the whole meeting 2 weeks ago. This is a precautionary measure. If for some reason Cook County does not disperse the second half of the taxes in time before we close our 2022 books, this allows us to go below our policy of a 25% reserve in our accounts. The specific accounts affected are generally what are considered our non-revenue generating accounts. So this does not include any of the business unit accounts. This is strictly the IMRF pension and FICA fund, the bond debt service fund, and there's one other one in here, the workers' compensation fund. So we want to make sure that these three funds are allowed to continue to operate until such time as Cook County meets their obligations.
Okay. Any questions for Jim?
And the plan is that in the event that they're temporarily below the 25% level, that they'll be immediately replenished upon receipt of the Cook County tax
That is correct, yes.
receipts.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, roll call please.
Commissioner Seaman,
Yes.
Commissioner Koto,
Yes.
Commissioner Archambault,
Yes.
Commissioner Lusson,
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp,
Yes.
Commissioner Root,
Yes.
Commissioner James.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Matters of the director.
So in your packet, you have information regarding the Elder and Centennial property exchange or related fees. And those total for 2022, $230,794.57. We do have some additional invoices, two specifically from the Lakota Group. And I'll continue to work with Jim to make sure that we have invoices that are then captured for our next meeting on the 12th of January. So that's where we're at for the calendar year 2022, $230,794.57. Any questions on that? And then for legal fees in total, independent from but also overlapping with the shoreline expenses, we're at $118,675.09, which is again above our budget. So we're continuing to aggregate legal fees through the course of the year, and we'll add those to our spreadsheet and provide detail as requested.
Thank you, John.
Any other matters for the director?
Not at this time.
Board liaison reports. Anyone? I would report that District 36 did provide some additional survey information that identifies the first grade playground improvements on Park District property. And we will be hearing more about that and a resolution that should be aggregated with the request from District 36 to acquire property in connection with the proposed expansion. There's also the matter of the stormwater, which is going to involve the village, the District 36, and the Park District, because the conveyance, the underground stormwater system involves all three of us. So we will be hearing more about that in January.
For the Crow Island Woods part of
For
the
the Crow Island Woods part of the stormwater. Okay. Any other liaison reports? All right, remarks from visitors. Second time, remarks from visitors is your opportunity to address the board on any issue when called upon. Come to the center position in front of the commissioners, state your name for the record, and speak directly to the board. Keep all comments under 3 minutes. This is not a question and answer forum, so please do not expect a response or answer from the park board this evening. If you prefer to share your comments in writing, you may use the comment card, which are available near the sign-in sheets. Only Park District staff will accept your card to be shared with the board.
Hi, my name is Katie Stevens. I have 3 minutes. I'm going to go quickly. Eric, you said let the IDNR do their job.
Correct.
And I believe you need to do your job.
I
In
always
your
do.
job, I hope you will represent us as the public that have come for 2.5 years and hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we still seem to be not leaning towards what the public wants. And I want you to all know how we feel. And a while ago, you were going to hire Res Publica. Part of me believes maybe you want to consider that, because I came here because I want the views of the lake. I want public access. I want to be able to walk on the lake. And you all need to represent us when you talk to the IDNR. You need to know that I don't want 11-foot walls on the beach. I want to be able to walk over the beach. I do not want access 100 feet out where the water may come in. Do you know where the access is on that plan? It's like way out in the middle, like where the lake could potentially come back. This gentleman has a 90-foot beach. The groins are doing just fine. We do not need higher groins. You know, potentially if he wants revetment, fine, many people are doing it, but he's got a large beach. We have paid a lot of money. Number 2, stormwater. He has 3.7 acres. I'm not sure if that's with or without the Park District property. If it's without the Park District, you have 5 acres of stormwater running out on the north end of Centennial. That stormwater should be dispersed or sent to the south end of the property. We do not want a cesspool in this rock pool that we're building, and I beg you to give us the stormwater plans. Number 1, we paid for them, we deserve them. Number 3, I don't want the high structure on the beach. I want access. I want to be able to walk across it at the bluff, not 100 feet out. Number 4, boat ramp. No one, the village has turned down. I talked to ex-president of the village this week. They have turned down multiple boat ramps. I am telling you, from a safety issue, if you all approve a boat ramp 5 feet from your beach, and a boat goes out and it kills a paddleboarder, you have some liability that you need to consider because you allowed a boat ramp right next to the beach. public access and vegetation. We all saw the planter boxes that are potentially called raised beds now. I have asked IDNR, and I believe you guys need to grant us a public meeting, and I'll be the one that'll die on my sword. I went to the IDNR. I'm the one that asked, along with many, many other people, to have a meeting with Jim Casey. I offered to go to where he lives. I offered to meet at a Starbucks. I said it's really hard to understand this aerial view. Okay, I couldn't get a meeting. I was told to go to Mr. Orchard 2020's AECom, I don't even know what the name is, and I felt uncomfortable. And I believe you deserve to give me a right to understand the plans from the IDNR or from you all. And the last thing I'm going to say, Warren, is your workshops have not been workshops. We need a workshop that we get to talk to you and you get to talk back, and it's not Post-it notes that we write down and put up on a board. We need the frustration with hundreds of people is that we don't have the time to talk to you. And this is not the forum. And I'm asking you at your workshop that you make it a workshop where the public can talk and you can talk back. And it seems like this plan is for one person, not us. And I'm very disappointed.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Following Katie's pretty tough. There's out there, Mary Garrison. I really respect Commissioner Siemens' remarks tonight about how hopefully the IDNR is addressed, because I do believe we have to be strong with the IDNR. I know they're their own business, but if we're not strong and talk of safety, talk of the boat ramp, it seems to me that it's really too far to the north end. Talk about the rocks and the people out there swimming, and also the concern about the drainage. I think these are all things we need to be very strong on. And as far as the workshop, people only have limited time. I mean, these meetings, I know you're at them, but
It's Christmas.
it's hard to get people to give up their time. And I think too much history, I don't think they need all that. I think that they're looking not for the history, they're looking for the future. So I hope that we have a good back and forth on that, and not too much talking from the staff and listening to people. That's fine. Thanks. Great
Thank you.
meeting. I'm going home.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
May I have a motion to go into closed session pursuant to 5 ILCS 120, Section 2C1 for the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm sorry.
Can I do
My
it?
apologies.
Okay. I'm Steve Jodison, 1436 Asbury. I'm reading from my scroll notes. I just want to say, I think that some of the premises you started off with this whole project are probably could be erroneous. You know, you found out you had a lot of engineering stuff that people didn't want to see, things like that. But to me, I think you need to really have the coastal engineer have come in first, because they're going to tell you what you can and can't do just from the natural setting, what the environment will let you do. And what you're really asking to do is review something you've narrowed it in on. And so they're only commenting on what you're allowing them to comment on. You're not really talking about what do you think of this in its entirety. You would want to have the IDNR and all the other company or organizations interact with them, because you'll have collaboration. You'll have the overall sense. Everybody will know what everybody's doing. It won't be siloed. The other premise is, your big assumption here is that you're going to have a lot of public visitors. You had a really good point where you said, this beach has been closed off for 50 years or whatever it was, 20 years. That's true. Maybe people are out of the habit of going to the beach. But it's also possible that, they don't really care about going to the beach. What I've seen is a lot of people go to the beach from like Waukegan and other places. People who live there don't go a lot of times. Maybe it's because of the experience you're talking about, but I think that's a big assumption. So, let's see what else. I'm on a roll here. The other thing is, when you have these workshops, a lot of people aren't going to go. and you said you didn't wanna have any more discussion and things, but there's a lot of new people that come in from the city, and that's a good thing. The bad thing about it is, there are young families here that go to the beach, but the bad thing is, they could also ask for things that are insane, like a food truck, because we're never gonna really go. They want all these amenities, but I don't think they're gonna show up for it. So, you know, you get to take that with a grain of salt what they're gonna say. So we don't know if their plans are realistic. I would just say, in a greater sense, the more information you get from the public, the better. Because it's gonna be a fruit salad and it's gonna be crazy, but you really wanna narrow it down, because you wanna narrow things down. But unless you let everybody have a say, somebody's gonna say something that didn't occur to you, and that's gonna be like genius. You're gonna wanna have that, assuming this thing goes through. And the final thing I would say is regarding people not wanting to see the guy from ACOM or whatever. I get the sense that a lot of people who have been following this are kind of intimidated by Ishbia because he can maybe get upset with them and litigate them into the ground. And I don't think people want to go anywhere near that because they don't want to lose their houses or something, you know. So you have to take that. This is an extraordinary situation because you've got a guy who's like 800-pound gorilla. You know, everybody else is immortal and there's this guy. So that's a big factor. That's an unknown. And that's why people are wary of trying to, interact with what you've set out for them to do. I'm gonna go home now and go to the bathroom.
Merry Christmas. All right, anybody else? All right, hearing none. May I have a motion to go into closed session pursuant to 5 ILCS 120, Section 2C1 for the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body. 5 ILCS 120, Section 2C5 for the purchase or lease of property. 5 ILCS 120-2C6 for the setting of a price for sale or lease of property. And 5 ILCS 120-2C11 for litigation when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of the particular public body has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the public body finds that an action is probable or imminent.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Seconded. Okay. Commissioner Archambault.
Yes.
Commissioner Lusson.
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp.
Yes.
Commissioner Root.
Yes.
Commissioner Seaman.
Yes.
Commissioner Kodo.
Yes.
Commissioner James.
Yes.
Motion passes. It is 8:46.
So what happens after this, just so you know?
By the way.
After this, we will enter into closed session, then we will return to open session. We will have the consideration of action, if any, of the items discussed in closed session, and we will adjourn.
Is it likely we'll act on anything, or? I don't know. I don't know what we're discussing.
I only think if we were acting, it would be in